Chapter 1676–1700 Supremacy Games 1676 The Celestial Ceremony 2. Even Asna didn't seem to have felt or noticed his eyes on her. With a cold emotionless expression, she floated down and sat next to the three rulers. Felix immediately broke out of his daze and shouted her name at her core agitatedly. Asna! Asna, can you hear me? Sadly, neither Asna heard him nor did her core react to his shouts. Why? She is outside of the dimensional pocket. She is supposed to have full connection with her core and even command it. Felix asked with a deep frown. Look at her head. Is that something normal? Thor shared as he pointed at a brilliant golden tiara on top of Asna's head. No. Felix narrowed his eyes in seriousness. It has to be something related to the three rulers. Felix knew that Asna was never a fan of too much jewelry and one of her most disliked types were tiaras, crowns, and such. Maybe it's some sort of a movable seal. Ramongandra suggested, if they can seal the entire dimensional pocket, it's not too far-fetched that they could create jewelry-based seals. Remember, the sealing hall was also related to them. Everyone nodded in agreement. This was the most reasonable explanation for the situation, as the three rulers would never allow Asna out without necessary precautions. Now, what? Candace inquired. The crux of the plan was Asna being left in the dimensional pocket while the three rulers watched the event. This indeed complicates things. Lady Sphinx frowned. It will be another set of challenges to try and approach her while near them. I don't care. Felix said with a cold tone. This changes nothing. In his eyes, the plan already had an abysmal chance of success, and this development wouldn't change anything since Felix would be going against the three rulers either way. Felix, you are doing it again. Thor reminded calmly. Felix went silent for a few moments after hearing this. He closed his eyes and took deep breaths and then opened them, feeling like himself again. He realized that this time his lust and desire had taken control over him, as it was responsible for his emotions related to intimacy, love, sex, etc. Thus, when he saw Asna after such a long period and he couldn't get to her, his desires took control over him again. I am still going to commit. Felix shared with a stern tone. I have a strong feeling that the three rulers will return Asna to the dimensional pocket after I kick off my plan. Are you sure? After what I am about to do, they won't have time to watch over her. Felix commentated with a cold tone. Boom. 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 Suddenly, the discussion was interrupted by a new set of divine fireworks painting the sky in a mesmerizing color that ended up being turned into a long name. It was of Apollo's and his title. They are starting with me. Zeus remarked with a nonchalant gaze as he watched his citizens, their procession thundering down the main avenue like a storm on the horizon. Each bearer held up a massive glass sphere, displaying captured celestial energy. It was harvested from the boundless skies of Zeus's domain in the past century. There were more than 1,000 glass spheres, and all of them were filled to the brim. Following them closely were the citizens of Athena, draped in robes of metal and crystal, advanced with a more measured pace. They had collected more or less the same amount of Zeus. Besides Apollo and Poseidon, the rest of the Unigens delivered in an average of 1,000 spheres. This sight, while extraordinary, didn't please most of the Unigens or the three rulers. The numbers are going down each cycle. Athena remarked with a solemn tone, we delivered in an extra 10 spheres last cycle. The universe's heart keeps spewing less and less celestial energy. Artemis murmured with a worried look, I genuinely don't like this. Celestial energy was the lifeline of the Unigens, and if it ever ran it, they would realize that there was nothing much to live for in their eternal lives. The chase for strength, improvement, and even the constant battles among each other, while bothersome, made them feel alive. Without celestial energy, an important resource to fight for, all of this would be gone and their lives would become like Apollo. Everyone turned to glance at Apollo, and when they saw him clapping with a childlike laugh as he observed his pitiful portion of celestial energy being paraded, they felt shivers at such a dreadful thought. Last but not least, the parade welcomed the devotees of Poseidon, moving like a flowing tide through the streets. Their spheres swirled with captured energy that mimicked the ocean's depth and mystery. When the Unigens saw that he had close to double their number of spheres, they turned their envious looks at Poseidon. "Watch and weep," Poseidon smirked smugly, leaving them with irritated expressions. "Enjoy it while it lasts, you won't be in hold of them for long," Zeus sneered. While the others hadn't said anything, most of them had the same attitude. Poseidon wasn't too bothered by this since he knew that only one could fight him in the event. All the Unigens had the right to challenge once and accept it once. This meant he had 2 fights, but he could avoid one if he didn't feel like challenging anyone. Since this event was held for the sake of Unigen's entertainment, most of them actively participated in the challenges. Boom! 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 With one final set of fireworks, the parade was concluded and all the celestial glass spheres were gathered in one place, creating a small mountain of celestial energy. From a citizen to a Unigen, everyone's eyes could be seen to have a tint of greed and desire as they stared at this beautiful piece of artwork, but they knew better not to have such thoughts before the 3 rulers. With a flash of light from the 3rd ruler, the array of celestial spheres manifested before them, each pulsating with energy harvested by the citizens of the various Unigens. As the moment of divinity allocation approached, a hush fell over the crowd, the air thick with anticipation. Turning to the Unigens, the 2nd ruler addressed them with a feminine voice that resonated like the very heartbeat of the universe. "Esteemed Unigens, the time has come to declare your preference for the divinity split. Your selections will shape the destinies of your domains and their balance until the next cycle." The celestial ceremony was termed to as a cycle by everyone since it was the only time when the 3 rulers showed up, accepted the celestial energy from lesser celestial Unigens, and converted it into the picked divinities. Naturally, the 3 rulers obtained their portion each cycle and it was 40% for each Unigen, which was more or less the same percentage of taxes in many countries. The remaining 60% was split into a portion to be used for the bets in the battles and the rest was turned straightway into divinities. In this manner, everyone got to win something each cycle while at the same time having some entertainment. Following the same order as shown in the parade, Zeus was the first to speak. "Let the spheres allocated to my domain be infused with 10% runic divinity, 20% radiant divinity, 9% resplendent divinity, and 1% incandescent divinity to spark the fires of inspiration among my people. The remaining 20% will be used in my battles." Zeus said the last part while staring at Poseidon, making him understand that he was coming for him. Poseidon merely scoffed and continued ignoring him. "Idiot, he may not even win the first challenge lot and still give me such looks, embarrassing." Next was Athena. "I seek 30% runic divinity, 10% radiant divinity, 10% resplendent divinity, and the remaining 10% will be used for battles." The rest of the Unigens followed suit one by one until it was Poseidon's turn again. Without an ounce of hesitation, he called out, "I seek 20% runic divinity, 20% radiant divinity, 10% resplendent divinity, and the remaining 10% will be used for battles." "Tisk, coward!" Zeus clicked his tongue in irritation. 10% was the lowest amount needed to join the battles, and whether a Unigen desired to join or not, he had to put in 10% and accept one challenge at least. This would ensure having some battles each cycle, which was a must to maintain the tradition. After the Unigens had made their decision, the 3 rulers took action. The first ruler began to chant in the Universal Codex language, which was older than the stars themselves. Ethereal threads of light wove around the spheres, tracing intricate patterns in the air as the celestial energy within it began to transform in front of everyone's eyes into a divinity. The second ruler joined the incantation, her voice harmonizing with the first, adding layers of complexity and depth to the magical weave. The third ruler raised his arms higher, and the very fabric of reality seemed to pulse in response. The air shimmered with potential, and the celestial energy within the spheres began to coalesce, condensing into crystalline forms of pure divinity. As the incantation reached its crescendo, a brilliant flash of light enveloped the palace, so intense that it momentarily eclipsed the celestial bodies overhead. The spheres, once aglow with raw energy, now radiated with the distinct hues of divinities, runic, radiant, resplendent, and incandescent, each color a reflection of the Unigen's choices, their desires made manifest. Is it possible for me to also create my own divinities? Felix wondered as he observed the show. 1677 Zeus vs Poseidon. While celestial white flames were extremely powerful than divinities, they also consumed an ungodly amount of celestial energy to fuel them. Felix would rather have the choice to pick what kind of effect he wanted in his battle instead of having them all three at the same time. It would save him so much more energy. As I have already told you, the three rulers' divinities can't be replicated since they embedded the essence of the three celestial languages. Lilith remarked lazily, if you want to create the same divinities or some new ones, you have to find your path to them. I see. Felix wasn't too disappointed as he had already expected as much. After the transformation was complete, the three rulers, with solemn grace, directed the divinities towards the Unigens. Like streams of starlight, the divinities flowed to their intended recipients. The Unigens, in turn, accepted this celestial boon with bowed heads and outstretched hands, the essence of the divinities merging with their being. They could then bestow it upon their citizens or keep them to themselves. To keep the morale and festivities high, most of the Unigens decided to call upon the selected fortunate subordinates to receive a taste of the divinities. Under the cheers and envious exclamations of the crowd, Admiral Nereus and other subordinates had their heads lowered as their bodies got bathed in divine light. It might not be even 1% of what the Unigens received, but none of them showed an ounce of complaint or disrespect. The main event is about to start. Felix commentated after the bestowal ended. The air buzzed with anticipation and a touch of rivalry, as the Unigens prepared to draw lots, a method as ancient as the cosmos itself, to determine the order in which they would issue their challenges during the celestial ceremony. A golden urn, shimmering with ethereal light and engraved with the symbols of all Unigens, floated in front of their thrones. One by one, they drew the lots without moving a finger. As the lots were drawn and the order revealed, a ripple of laughter and jeers echoed. Zeus turned to Poseidon, whose lot had placed him near the end of the challenging order. Seems the oceans are not in your favor today. Perhaps a storm is brewing over your luck, he teased, the amusement clear in his deep, resonant voice. Poseidon, unfazed and with a spark in his eyes, retorted, let's see if the tides turn when it comes to actual prowess. Athena, whose lot had placed her in a favorable position, couldn't help but join in, her wisdom-laden voice tinged with mirth. Gentlemen, let's not forget that strategy often outweighs brute strength. May the best Unigen win, by wit or might. Apollo, leaning against a pillar with the relaxed demeanor of one accustomed to being a mere spectator, chuckled, it's been forever since Poseidon has fought anyone besides Hephaestus, this will be an entertaining watch. You think I don't have it in me to defeat him? Poseidon sneered, I am willing to bet an extra 1 million square kilometers of my territory for one cycle. Make it 2 for 2 cycles. Zeus pressed. You have it. Poseidon agreed instantly. Whether he won or lost, he already had double Zeus territory, which meant his loss wouldn't affect him that much. Since both territories were way too far from each other, it wouldn't be fair for a Unigen to win a piece, just to have it invaded by another Unigen without having the ability to defend it. Thus, the Unigens were required to defend the territory for a cycle or more depending on the conditions of the bet. The Unigens were forced to do this since it was still considered their territory, and if they didn't defend it, they couldn't recoup it later on after the duration ended. Let's go. With the terms set, Zeus and Poseidon turned their gaze towards a new dimension. Its gateway was opened by the three rulers after the challenge was decided. Besides the three rulers and the two challengers, no one could enter the dimensional pocket. Stepping into the void, they left behind the vivid reality of the celestial capital, entering a domain of profound silence and darkness. This new dimension, devoid of form and substance, offered the perfect canvas for their powers to manifest without restraint. Apollo took over the hosting job as usual and presented the rules of the battle to everyone involved. As per the rules, divinities are banned and each Unigen has a limited period of 5 minutes to land as many direct hits as possible to score points. Those rules were a must to avoid having the Unigens waste their entire divinities over a battle meant for entertainment first. Unfortunately for the citizens, the battles were broadcast only to the Unigens, the 3 rulers, and the main chosen subordinates. No one bothered to involve the rest since they wouldn't be able to see a single thing no matter how hard they tried. The Unigen with the most points will be considered as the winner. Apollo looked right and left and then shouted, "Fight!" The instant the battle commenced, Zeus, his form crackling with the promise of storms, raised his arm, calling forth the force of lightning, turning the entire environment around him into a thunderstorm. Meanwhile, Poseidon spanned his trident once and the behemoth strength of the ocean was summoned, putting him in his favorable environment. The gathered Unigens watched with bated breath as Zeus prepared to make the first move in this divine duel of titans. With a motion that seemed to tear the very fabric of the void, Zeus summoned his divine weapon, a lightning-shaped spear crackling with the raw essence of tempests. The air around it hummed with power, the spear itself glowing with an intensity that mirrored the might of its master. Poseidon! With a thunderous roar that resounded across the dimensionless expanse, Zeus hurled the weapon towards Poseidon at the speed of light, a brilliant golden streak cutting through the nothingness towards its target. Poseidon stood unfazed as the divine lightning bore down upon him. In an instant, he summoned a series of towering walls made of the darkest ice, a manifestation of the abyssal cold that lay at the ocean's heart. The walls rose in succession, each designed to absorb and dissipate the weapon's ferocious energy. Boredom! 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 As the golden lightning collided with the ice, a cacophony of shattering and hissing filled the air, the force of the impact causing the walls to crack and explode into a shower of icy shards. Yet, the divine weapon's momentum was undiminished, cutting through every barrier with relentless force until it finally reached Poseidon. In a display of supreme confidence and control, Poseidon simply extended his trident and with a deft flick, smacked the golden lightning away. The weapon veered off course, its trajectory altered, as it fizzled out into the void, its energy spent. Standing amidst the remnants of the shattered ice, Poseidon fixed Zeus with a cold gaze. With a voice that carried the chill of the deepest waters, he mocked, "Is that all you have? God of Thunder!" "We are just getting started," Zeus uttered indifferently as he cracked his neck. 1678 Zeus vs Poseidon. 2. "I have to give it to you," Poseidon said with his eyes narrowed dangerously, "you are quite bold to bring your core. I knew you'd do the same." Zeus answered as he caught his returning spear. "You need all the help you can get to defend your territory." Now that those two were engaging in battle, it was much easier to recognize that both of them had their cores within them. Usually, they used spiritual pressure to hide it, and the only way for Unigens and others to discover its existence was through the strength displayed. "What about you guys?" Athena inquired as she gazed at her peers. "I left it behind." Artemis confessed, "I am not interested in making myself a target." "Artemis, you are too soft." Demeter scolded, "What kind of Unigen are you if you are incapable of protecting your own core?" "A smart one," Artemis murmured to herself as Felix's sinister smile surfaced in her mind. Demeter could only shake her head and leave her be. In her eyes, it was safest to keep her core on her person as she trusted her strength above all else. Most of the Unigens felt the same and brought their cores with them to the event. As for Felix, they already placed many countermeasures against him. Boom! 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 Meanwhile, in the boundless void that served as their battleground, Zeus and Poseidon's every move resonated with the power to reshape the cosmos. Zeus, wielding the authority of the lightning, summoned a storm of cosmic proportions. His hands crackled with the raw essence of lightning, each bolt he hurled infused with energy potent enough to obliterate celestial bodies. With a thunderous roar, he unleashed a tempest upon Poseidon, lightning bolts tearing through the fabric of the void, each one a spear aimed at the heart of his opponent. Lightning can never beat water. Poseidon, undaunted by the fury of the storm, responded with the might of the ocean's depths. He raised his trident high, calling forth a tidal wave of cosmic scale, its waters dark and unfathomable. This was no ordinary wave, but a deluge capable of engulfing stars, a manifestation of Poseidon's dominion over all waters. With a forceful thrust of his trident, he directed this cataclysmic surge towards Zeus, intent on quenching the lightning with the overwhelming might of the sea. While the attack failed to land on Zeus, the collision of their powers was a spectacle of destruction and beauty, lightning and water clashing with a force that shook the foundations of the universe. Let's get close and personal. Zeus waved his spear once and his entire being was engulfed in intense pitch-black electricity, turning his regal existence into his wicked version. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared out of his place, and when he reappeared, his lightning spear was already about to slice Poseidon's head off. Poseidon merely murmured, "The chill." Then, out of his skin, a chilling blue mist emerged, and when the spear went through it, it began to freeze all over until it covered the entire weapon. The intense lightning spear became an ice sculpture with its blade a mere inch away from Poseidon's neck. With a nonchalant glance, Poseidon uttered, "Expand." The chilling mist exploded all of a sudden, and it covered more than 1,000,000 kilometers in the blink of an eye, turning the battlefield into a frozen graveyard, where water, lightning, and even time seemed to be affected. Tisk, slippery as always. Poseidon clicked his tongue in irritation after noticing that no one was holding the spear anymore. Zeus had ditched his weapon the instant he expanded his chilling breath and had placed a large distance from the affected area. Absolute zero. Fenrir muttered as he eyed the blue chilling particles floating by. He didn't know what to feel at the notion of his ultimate ability, which took him 100 million years of non-stop hard work, to get used in such a nonchalant manner like it was any ability. The worst part? Even when it was used point blank, it still didn't land on Zeus. Suddenly, the lightning spear began to heat up intensely until it was so hot, that it became a spear of blinding light, causing the frozen ocean and even time around it to unfreeze. Against absolute chill, absolute heat was needed, and as the god of thunder, heat was a byproduct of his laws. The instant the spear was freed, it spanned once and disappeared out of existence again. Meanwhile, a couple million kilometers away, Zeus caught the spear with his outstretched hand. "Since you don't want to fight up close, so be it." Zeus voiced coldly, "Quantum storm." As he chanted the name of his technique, the very fabric of space began to tremble, resonating with the imminent unleashing of chaos. From the depths of the void, a swirling maelstrom of cosmic energy materialized. Its core was a blinding nexus of quantum lightning, each bolt a bridge between existence and oblivion. The storm expanded, engulfing the battlefield in a spectacle of unfathomable power. Lightning, existing in all states simultaneously, struck with relentless fury, tearing at the fabric of space and time, causing the frozen ocean to get obliterated. Rumble! Rumble! Damn it! Poseidon faced the oncoming storm with a deep frown, his trident glowed with an ethereal light, ready to counter the electromagnetic onslaught. Yet, as the quantum storm fell upon him, its sheer unpredictability made it a foe unlike any other. The battlefield, once a stark expanse of void, changed under the storm's influence. Reality altered unpredictably, making and annihilating matter in fleeting moments of creation and destruction. The very essence of the quantum storm was chaos, which Poseidon sought to uphold. "How does this make any sense?" Thor remarked with a dumbfounded look. "How can lightning be utilized to tap into quantum physics? I thought that was an untouched domain." Thor had spent his entire lifetime exploring lightning element and its powers to the point he believed that he had mastered everything there was to be mastered. Even when Felix used electromagnetic particles in his potion making, he didn't think too much of it since he had no interest in such a field. But this? This was different. He was watching with his own eyes how each bolt of quantum lightning that hit near Poseidon was a potential catalyst for creation or annihilation, forcing the sea god to navigate a battlefield that was constantly unmaking itself. It was utter chaos, and its origin was none other than an unsuspecting common element. Marvelous, genuinely marvelous. Lady Sphinx commentated with an astounded tone. This technique must be manipulating the electromagnetic fields at the quantum level to generate a storm of lightning that exists in a state of superposition. She took a deep breath and continued, in simpler terms, this storm can strike in multiple locations simultaneously, its unpredictable nature making it nearly impossible to defend against. Under the stunned eyes of the tenants, Poseidon was going through the worst possible time in his life, as those lightning bolts didn't just emerge from the battlefield, but also from his own body, causing him to get hit internally by lightning. Annoying prick. When Poseidon realized that he was being farmed for points since each direct hit was considered a point, he didn't hesitate to break into mist particles and move to a safer area. He understood that as long as the quantum storm remained, there wasn't much to be done against it unless Eris herself intervened. As the ruler of order and chaos, this was her fort. Meanwhile, Zeus, from his vantage point, observed as Poseidon left his storm's territory. 5 points, not bad. I just have to maintain my lead for the next minutes and the win is mine. A flash of satisfaction crossed his features as he prepared to defend those points with his life. Guys, I must get those 2 cores, I need my water and lightning manipulation back. Suddenly, Felix voiced with a tint of green light in the depth of his eyes. 1679 for you, I will set the world on fire. 2 at once. Candace was the first to suck a deep cold breath. Is it your greed talking again? Yes, but don't worry. Felix remarked calmly, I am in full control this time. Felix wasn't saying this to get the tenants off his back, he genuinely could feel his desire acting up the moment he realized that those 2 had brought their cores with them. Since he had a sentimental connection to lightning and water, his desire was stronger than ever. Still, he was the one in control. How will you pull it off exactly? Thor asked with a solemn tone. I will figure it out while on the move. Felix replied while standing up from his throne, I don't have time to waste, it's the perfect time to kickstart the plan. With a focused intent, Felix summoned 6 clones of himself, each a perfect replica imbued with his vast power and cunningness. Felix and his clones all gazed into Asna's absent-minded expression as she watched the ongoing battle. Then, they collectively murmured in their minds, I am coming. Without an ounce of hesitation, Felix summoned the equal trade symbol and wished to hide their existence from everyone temporarily, utilizing the same wish from before. The instant the wish took place, Felix and his 6 clones were dispatched to the central zone of the kingdom, a vast expanse far removed from the bustling energy and divine presence of the capital city. This area, while significant, was momentarily overlooked by the Unigens, who were engrossed in the ceremonial proceedings and the display of might between Zeus and Poseidon. However, the same didn't apply to the 3 rulers. The boy has made his move. What an interesting child, he sure fears no one and nothing. Leave him, let's see what he has stored for us. The 3 rulers traded glances amongst each other in silence and continued spectating the battle, not bothering to alarm anyone about Felix and his clone's disappearance. In their eyes, Felix could be only after the Unigens' cores and they didn't care how he achieved it, as long as he didn't touch them, Asna, or too much of their precious celestial energy. Oh, how would they regret this decision? Arriving simultaneously at predetermined points within the central zone, Felix and the clones began their task. They stood still, their presence almost inconspicuous against the backdrop of the kingdom's sprawling landscapes. Then, in a synchronized moment of concentration, they began to absorb the celestial energies that permeated the realm. Before the temporary barrier could expire, the clones executed their next move with precision. Utilizing the advanced teleportation granted by the wishes, they vanished from the central zone, reappearing instantaneously in front of the Unigens' territory's gates. Those territories were Zeus, Poseidon, Athena, Aeolus, Demeter, and lastly, Artemis. The only territory untargeted was Apollo's. Each clone, now a conduit of celestial energy, charged into the depth of those territories, taking advantage of the barrier to avoid the owner's detection. Only Felix was left behind in the central zone. With a focused, fearless gaze directed at the capital city, Felix uttered, "Teleport me." Amid their epic battle within the dimensional pocket, Zeus and Poseidon's celestial battle caused the very fabric of reality to bend and warp under the intensity of their duel. Without warning, the real Felix materialized within the dimensional pocket, his presence like a bolt from the blue. His arrival was not heralded by storms or fanfare but by the sheer audacity of his action, teleporting directly into the heart of a conflict that had captured the attention of the cosmos. The Unigens, momentarily caught off guard, reacted with a mix of shock and disbelief. "Hey! The hell? You got to be kidding me!" These questions echoed silently among the divine assembly as they stared at Felix, trying to comprehend the implications of his bold move. Why, he isn't stupid to do this. Think, there must be something." Athena's keen gaze sharpened, her strategic mind already calculating the potential shifts in power dynamics Felix's arrival could signify. She understood that for Felix to make a move, it implied that he was either a retard or someone with a horrifying plan. "Ha ha 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 ha! As expected of my superstar. I knew you would never leave me to rot in boredom here." Apollo, ever the lover of drama and spectacle, couldn't help but let out a loud laugh, appreciating the sheer unpredictability Felix brought to the celestial ceremony. Amid the confusion and the sudden pause in the hostilities, all eyes suddenly turned to Asna. "Felix." The moment her gaze fell upon Felix, a cascade of emotions swept over her, breaking through the haze that had enshrouded her spirit. Love, in its most pure and undiluted form, surged within her heart, a torrent of longing and affection that had been dammed by separation and silence. Her ember eyes, luminous and wide with a blend of surprise and unbridled joy, locked onto Felix, seeing nothing and no one else in the vast expanse of the cosmos. Time seemed to stand still for Asna as if the universe had paused in deference to the depth of their connection. The sight of Felix, so unexpected and yet fervently desired, rekindled a flame within her that she feared had dimmed. It was a reaction that transcended the divine, a soul-deep recognition that the other half of her essence, her partner across lifetimes and dimensions, stood before her once more. At that moment, every strand of her being vibrated with an overwhelming desire to bridge the distance between them, to end the separation that had been an aching void in her existence. Oh no! 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 Alas! This idea was killed off the instant her eyes captured the sight of the three rulers locking their emotionless blinding pupils on her man. Fear, a bone-chilling sensation of fear coursed down her spine as she envisioned her beloved getting captured and tortured by the three rulers for all the crap he put them through. Just as she reached out with her hand to the tiara, about to do something very stupid to bring the three rulers' wrath on her and leave Felix alone, a loving gentle voice resounded in her mind. "My sadistic queen, I missed you like crazy." The instant Asna heard Felix's gentle voice, tears threatened to flood down her cheeks as she had been longing to hear him for eternity. "Sob, Felix, is that you? I missed you too, sob." Her faint sobbing was like a dagger wedged at the depth of his heart, causing him immense pain and anger every time he heard it. But, Felix didn't act on those emotions and kept them under control. "Just hang tight, I will get you out of here even if it kills me. All I need you to do is maintain an eye on my signal and fall asleep." Felix's tone became cold the moment he felt the storm of Zeus and Poseidon's battle cease. Before Asna could respond, Felix cut off the connection, which was established through a wish as well, since the seal around her head acted in the same manner as being in the pocket dimension. Meanwhile, Zeus and Poseidon turned to regard the newcomer, their expressions a mix of coldness and curiosity. "Paragon, I am starting to wonder if you have a screw loose," Poseidon remarked indifferently as he tightened his grasp on his trident. "To come here with Asna's core, you must really be taking a piss at us." For your own sake, I do hope that slaying Hephaestus hasn't inflated your ego to pull such a dumb move. Zeus added coldly while spinning his spear around his shoulders, otherwise, this dimension will be your grave. In utter silence Felix stood there with his back facing those two gods, he neither responded nor turned back. He raised his hand high above and concentrated inwardly. In no time, a vortex of celestial energy formed above his head, which transformed into a massive fireball of celestial black flames. The dark light emanating from the fireball cast eerie shadows across the faces of Zeus and Poseidon. With a flick of his wrist, Felix dispatched the fireball, its trajectory taking it beyond the confines of the dimensional pocket and toward the celestial capital city. It streaked across the sky, a comet of foreboding doom, before crashing into one of the city's grand buildings. The impact was immediate and slightly devastating, the black flames clinging to the structure with a voracious hunger, an embodiment of destruction made manifest. As the gods and gathered citizens watched with puzzled looks as the building was consumed, Felix's voice, cold and resolute, cut through the chaos. For you, I will burn the world. Even when his eyes weren't on her, Asna experienced her heart flutter at his declaration, knowing that he was directing it at her. Feli. Before she or anyone could react, with a snap of his fingers, the black flames, as if invigorated by his command, surged with newfound ferocity. Hudush! They spread like a plague, uncontainable and ravenous, each touch turning structures and beings alike into fuel for their insatiable appetite. Aegh. Ittt. Hertz. Muamiya. The flames engulfed indiscriminately, not caring if it was a building, an adult, a child, or an animal, it engulfed anything and anyone bold enough to remain before its path. Felix was no longer on the right path to mind who he harmed or killed, he was against the universe, and this made him understand that mercy was no longer a luxury if he still cared enough to save his loved one. As for feeling bad, he no longer had such emotions the instant he became the personification of evil energy. Thus, those panicky and agonized cries signified nothing to him. How is this possible? What the hell are those flames? They are capable of consuming celestial energy directly. Not even white flames can do this. The world itself bends to those flames, such power defies even our understanding. As the black flames devoured everything in their path, the Unigens collectively gasped, their eyes wide with disbelief. Alas, the worst had yet to come for them. 1680 What have you done? Suddenly, the Unigens felt an unsettling shift in the air as the concealing barrier around Felix's clones in their territories had expired. Instinctively, their divine senses stretched out, a protective reflex honed over eons, only to be met with a sight that sent a collective shiver down their spines. You can't be for real. Aeolus stuttered. No. No, he won't go that far. Demeter murmured with a horrified look. Even Uranus and Eris had a change of expression at the sight of Felix's clones standing in the hearts of the Unigens' most cherished domains, each with a massive black fireball levitating ominously above their heads. He wouldn't dare. Before the Unigens could even voice their denial, their protests dying in their throats, the clones acted. With a motion that seemed deliberate and disdainful, they hurled the fireballs toward the main cities, the very nuclei of their territories. The fireballs descended with a terrifying certainty, crashing into the cities and igniting upon impact. Whoosh! The black flames, as if sentient, immediately began to feast upon the celestial energy saturating the territories. Each spark that caught, each flame that spread, was fueled by the divine essence that had nurtured these realms for ages. The Unigens watched, horror-struck, as their cities, their domains, became the kindling for an inferno that sought to consume everything. As the realization of the catastrophe unfolding in their realms settled in, a deep, collective dread took root. With a single glance traded among each other, Athena, Demeter, Aeolus, and Artemis swiftly took off, rushing towards their territories, wanting to save them from the black inferno. The only ones left behind were Apollo, Eris, and Uranus. When Apollo should have felt relieved that his territory wasn't targeted by Felix, he seemed like he couldn't care less. His usual lively eyes were frozen on the black flames consuming the capital city from its roots. He gazed at the pitch-black flames with a darkening intensity, as if they were the most precious treasure he had ever seen. Dark celestial flames capable of consuming reality, this is it, this is the key to my goal. A dreadful horrid voice resounded in his mind, seemingly more excited than a 9-year-old receiving a bike for Christmas. Shut the F***ck up. You be the end of us. Apollo remarked with a tingle of fear after picking up on rising divine energy from high above. When he left his head, he saw the third ruler move from his place, stepping a mere meter in front of his peers. Halt! Then, with a single authoritative word, the intense inferno seemed to have stopped, like the third ruler's command was above all, even Felix's control. Useless attempt, Uranus sneered with a nonchalant tone, the three rulers' words are the most authoritative commands at anything created out of celestial energy, regardless of the owner. In other words, if the Unigens ever decided to use the divinities against the three rulers, it would be the same as shooting themselves in the foot with their own gun. The three rulers' authority is absol. Never cease your progress unless by my word. Before Uranus could finish licking their shoes, Felix, with a steely gaze fixed upon the spreading inferno, issued a new decree. The black flames, which had momentarily hesitated under the influence of the third ruler's attempts to quell them, reignited with a vengeance upon hearing Felix's command. They surged forward, more ferocious and unyielding than before, a relentless tide of destruction that defied the divine. I said, halt! The third ruler stressed with a voice imbued with the weight of celestial authority. Alas, the flames paid no heed to his decree. Instead, they grew in intensity and purpose, a living defiance of the ruler's will. As the realization dawned that their utterances fell on deaf ears, a chilling silence settled among the watchers. The sight of the black flames, now turning towards them and aiming for the universe's heart, signaled a threat of unprecedented scale. His dominance can override us. The first ruler narrowed his blinding eyes, is he really? The flames are heading towards the universe's heart. The second ruler interrupted with a cold tone, leave this to me, handle the flames in the Unigens' territories. We can't be losing such a massive amount of celestial energy. The second ruler extended her hands, palms facing the oncoming inferno. Then, streams of radiant, resplendent, runic, and incandescent divinities intertwined, creating a golden-colored flame that shimmered with the essence of creation itself. Without an ounce of hesitation, she sent the golden flames to face the black flames, creating a spectacular scene of two overbearing godlike flames desiring to devour each other. Even in this situation, they are being extremely stingy in their utilization of celestial energy. Eris shook her head in disapproval as she watched the three rulers utilize the most standardized and weakest version of their powers to stop the flames, to save up on celestial energy. While she could see that their golden flames were dominating Felix's black flames, it would still take some while and the citizens below would be dead by then. Thus, in an act of mercy, she flipped a book off her page, and all the citizens and creatures in the capital city were pulled into a safer existence from millions of small portals. This turned the capital city into a ghost town. When she tried to remove the black flames from them in her reality, she couldn't help but raise an eyebrow in surprise at her failure. Yes, she failed to destroy the black flames even in her reality, where she controlled the order and disorder of the universe. Interesting, this isn't like any other celestial flame. Eris murmured as she noted down in her book, while its origin is celestial flames, its dominance seems to overrule everything in the universe, capable of eating all matter. No wonder they haven't invested much celestial energy. They must believe that anything else will be consumed and the only way to stop those flames is to cut off their source of fuel like they were dealing with wildfire. Her analysis was in place as the second ruler controlled the golden flames to surround the black flames from all directions, creating a circular wall around them. The golden wall contained them and made it impossible to seek out more celestial energy. While this was a much slower and deliberate process, it was the smartest decision to make and the cheapest one to handle this situation. Argh! Help me! It burns! When Eris heard the constant screams of the citizens in her reality, Eris swiftly snapped her finger and removed the concept of pain from her reality. Hey, it doesn't hurt anymore. I am still burning, how? Sob, I am scared. Each citizen had a different reaction at the sight of their bodies being still engulfed in black flames, but the agonizing pain was no longer there. Eris didn't bother to explain the situation to them and switched her focus to the capital city again, just to find out that black flames were starting to weaken bit by bit. I guess the only way to stop them completely is through getting rid of the little paragon. When Eris concentrated on the dimensional pocket where Zeus and Poseidon were fighting, she was startled to see that no one was there. All three were gone when her focus was placed on her reality. Did you see what happened? Eris asked Apollo but realized that he was on another bipolar episode, seemingly talking to himself like a madman in the corner. He has forcefully teleported them somewhere through his greed laws before I can make my move. I can't feel their presence anywhere in the kingdom. Uranus said with a solemn tone as he gazed at the empty dimension. He wasn't joking when he said he was about to make his move. He had already summoned his divine bronze scythe, with its celestial bronze blade shining with cosmic power, ready to enforce the will of the cosmos. When Eris released her senses to cover the entire kingdom, she also found out that none of them were there. If it was just Felix's presence, she could understand it, but the other two also? That was different since they would not be stupid to hide their presence after being kidnapped. This made her reach only one conclusion. He must have taken them to that place, Eris remarked. A century has gone by, he must have learned it. Uranus nodded with a tint of fury buried in his eyes, seemingly unpleased by the whole mess. What will you be doing? Eris asked. Uranus turned his gaze towards the three rulers and said coldly, I am going to find him and present his head and that *tch's core to the rulers. I had enough of this farce. Before Eris could say anything, Uranus swung his divine bronze scythe once in front of him and the space was sliced open like a piece of paper. Then, he walked inside with a bone-chilling gaze. Ah, little one, what have you done? Eris smiled bitterly after a deep sigh, knowing that Felix was never going to walk out of the kingdom in one piece. She knew that while the three rulers' reactions seemed quite tame, it was only because they wanted to get rid of the black flames quickly and save their celestial energy. When they finished with this, then, they would turn their gazes at him and at that time, she knew that his life would be over, for he had touched their most sacred treasure, celestial energy. 1681 The Dream Realm. At the moment of the infernal setting off in the Unigens territories, Zeus and Poseidon could be seen having ugly expressions as they gazed at Felix's back. You, what have you done? Poseidon yelled at Felix with bloodshot eyes, feeling like his hard work in doubling his territory was going to waste. What I should have done long ago, Felix remarked nonchalantly, unbothered by their killing intent. This isn't over. You hear me? Just as they prepared to disengage, driven by a growing sense of urgency toward the inferno consuming their realms, the equal trade symbol flared to life with a quiet intensity. Unseen by them but potent in its influence, it enveloped Zeus and Poseidon in its enigmatic glow. You dare! In the blink of an eye, before their intentions could manifest into action, the symbol activated its power. The dimension around them dissolved into a stream of light, and they found themselves standing within a domain where the boundaries of reality blurred into the surreal. Is this the dream realm? Zeus continued with a deep frown as he observed the land steeped in weirdness, randomness, and unbridled fantasy. Here, the impossible became possible, and the imaginable took form, creating a landscape that defied logic and reason. Towering mountains abruptly gave way to vast oceans suspended in the sky, while forests of luminous trees sang with the voices of forgotten legends. Castles made of whispers float atop clouds of vibrant hues, and creatures of myth roamed freely, embodying the essence of dreams and nightmares alike. In this realm, time and space were twisted and folded in whimsical patterns, where a step forward might transport one across worlds or into the heart of a dream yet untold. Welcome to my dream realm. Abruptly, Felix manifested in front of them while standing above a marshmallow cloud and carrying Hephaestus's divine hammer on his shoulder. You are truly courting death. Zeus uttered coldly, you have burned most of the released celestial energy in the kingdom and still dare to trot around instead of running away. If you think the three rulers are going to show you mercy to save up on celestial energy, you are out of your mind. Poseidon remarked while pointing his trident toward Felix, you are a walking corpse. Maybe, Felix replied with an unfazed look, maybe this might be the last for me, but at the moment, I think you should be worrying over yourselves. Zeus and Poseidon glanced at each other for a moment. They saw the tint of dread hidden in their eyes as they knew that their current situation was indeed not favorable. While they had never entered Lilith's dream realm, which was many ranks higher than the dream world, they understood that it acted more or less the same as being in a domain. In other words, they were currently in Felix's domain and this enabled him to utilize territorial pressure on them. However, this didn't frighten them to the point of falling on their knees and begging Felix for mercy. They still had a massive quantity of divinities after just getting bestowed upon. Boy, you think we don't know about the strengths and weaknesses of the dream realm symbolic technique? Zeus sneered. Dream realm is a powerful domain that can exist in the matter universe, but we know that it requires a massive quantity of dreams to sustain its existence and powers. Poseidon remarked, even if you put your void citizens into slumber and used their dreams as its fuel, it is still not enough to let you have that much of God's control. Indeed, the dream realm was a domain where the rules of reality bowed to the whims of its creator, but that's only if he could afford the price of his wishes. This technique was one of Lilith's masterpieces and it was created out of the combination of four symbols, the dream world symbol, sloth, the hunger symbol, gluttony, God's complex, pride, and last but not least, the equal trade symbol, greed. Each of those symbols served a massive role in creating the realm. The dream world was the foundation. The hunger symbol acted as the devourer of the dreams and transformed them into fuel to sustain their existence. God's complex allowed Felix to turn into a godly being in a limited capacity depending on his own belief in his inner God. The equal trade symbol was transformed into a wishing device that Felix used to pay for the dreams of the realm's inhabitants. In other words, as long as people were entering his realm through their dreams, he could wish for anything inside his realm as long as the effects remained in the realm. Right now, all the void citizens besides Candace were put into a deep slumber and could be said to exist in the dream realm through their dreams. However, they had no idea about this and believed to be dreaming as normal. The only way to truly enter the dream realm and walk upon the dreams of others was if Felix allowed them to. How about you test it out? Felix said with a faint mocking smile. Poseidon and Zeus didn't like Felix's smug look and it made their hearts skip a beat. He is bluffing. He shouldn't have enough dreams to remove the excess. Zeus and Poseidon were abruptly halted mid-thought. Their faces twisted with a blend of terror, astonishment, and uncertainty as they realized that their divinities had suddenly ceased to function. No matter how much they called on them and which type they chose, they all ignored their calls. How? Impossible, the number of dreams required to eliminate divinities from your domain is unattainable, not just in a century but even in millions of years. You're right. Felix showed a sinister smile as he applauded his hands. That's why I brought those with me. Upon clapping, the pink clouds parted to reveal distant, astronomical jelly-like cubes with millions of ruined planets within them. The moment Zeus and Poseidon saw them, it finally clicked in their minds. The dreamers, you utilized the consumed dreams of the mortals. Zeus murmured, realizing that those dreamers must have consumed trillions of dreams in their eternal journey. After all, they had existed ever since the primogenitor's era, and God knows how many civilizations had fallen under their slumbering spell. While there were no more people inside them since Felix had freed everyone who got devoured many years ago, the absorbed dreams were still there. This gave him a massive amount of fuel to power his dream realm in addition to fulfilling some of his wishes. The biggest wish he made was the removal of divinities and celestial flames from his realm, which would make it impossible for even the three rulers to utilize them in his realm. If it was up to him, he would have removed even the water and lighting laws, turning those two unigens into helpless victims. But, he knew that he could not waste whatever was left of his dreams if he wanted the rest of his plan to work. This dream realm wasn't considered a masterpiece for no reason. It acted in the same manner as one of Eris' realities, where she had complete control over it. This was what Eris meant when she said he needed to ask Lilith about dealing with divinities and celestial flames, as she understood Lilith was capable of bypassing them too. You sure have planned this to perfection, I give you that. Zeus stated with a cold tone while transforming his spear into a beacon of electricity, but, this means you also can't rely on your celestial flames. The dream realm's wishes related to the environment and everyone was under its effects, even Felix. This also applied to Eris' realities, as the moment she removed the concept of pain for the citizens, she also could no longer feel it. I know. Still, Felix was unfazed by this. He engulfed his divine hammer in purplish flames while his other hand carried a sword made out of concentrated void energy. Then, he commented coldly, the only difference between us is that I don't need celestial powers to beat the living *T of you. 1682 Zeus/Poseidon vs the Paragon. The moment he was done, Felix summoned a new symbolic technique called the prideful aura of supremacy. A majestic golden sigil materialized above his head, bearing the proud image of a roaring lion that no mortal would dare face. There was no other animal merged with the lion, as this technique was created out of merging multiple symbols of the pride sin alone. Prideful aura of supremacy technique. Zeus warned with narrowed eyes, be careful, this technique utilizes I am supreme, perfection manifestation, and clash of pride symbols. It boosts his strength by 5% each second as long as he believes his pride to be above us, which removes both the drawbacks. You don't have to tell me, Poseidon remarked coldly as he gazed at the radiant halo of golden light that enveloped Felix, magnifying his presence and might. It was a clear declaration of superiority, a challenge that neither god could ignore since it targeted their pride. Alas, the moment Felix ascended the second time, his inner pride had already evolved to the point it could challenge the lesser celestial unigens and even surpass them. Felix never dared to bring out clash of prides against them before because he always had a subconscious feeling that he wasn't at the same level as unigens even after his first ascension. But with the defeat of Hephaestus, that feeling was snuffed out. I ain't done yet. With a fierce look, Felix invoked the infernal pact of avarice and wrath, his body becoming the conduit for a devastating fusion of desire and fury. His hair transformed into blazing crimson flames, and his body took on a demonic red hue, radiating intense heat that seemed to warp the very air around him, turning him into a living inferno. The infernal sigil above Felix absorbed the heat, turning it into crimson mist and fueling his anger to continue empowering him in a slow and controlled manner. What's this? Zeus asked with a deep frown. I don't know. Poseidon remarked, it must be a new technique. Their assumption was correct, as this technique was created out of merging infernal wrath, rampage, and avarice amplifier symbols. It was the first technique to have heat-related laws merged with sin symbols. What do why? Before they could analyze the technique, Felix appeared before Poseidon with an air of undeniable dominance. With a movement that bridged the gap between thought and action, Felix brought the hammer down upon Poseidon with a force that resonated through the realm, a staggering 90 million battle force, BF, concentrated into a singular, devastating blow. The impact was monumental, an instant frozen in time, where Poseidon's eyeballs almost popped off their sockets in a mix of shock and terror. Boom! As time snapped back into its rightful pace, the aftermath was cataclysmic. Poseidon's form, unable to withstand the immense force, disintegrated into countless water particles that shimmered momentarily in the air before dissipating everywhere. His trident, a symbol of his power and authority, was sent careening into the distance, clattering against the dream-formed landscape. Witnessing the fate of his partner, Zeus felt a primal fear grip his divine heart. In an instant, understanding the threat Felix posed, he transformed into a bolt of lightning, a pure expression of his desire to escape, and streaked across the realm, putting as much distance as possible between himself and Felix. The moment his form was manifested, Zeus clutched his divine lightning spear tightly and looked at the far distance with a tint of fear in his eyes. That power, it's almost double mine. I can't contest against him without my divinities. Zeus wouldn't mind if Felix was 10 or even 20 million BF force above him. In his eyes, that was a bit manageable even if he would be on the losing side. But, 30 million, 40 million? There was no way he would be able to resist a single attack from Felix, and Poseidon's ending was the proof. I have to buy time until the three rulers deal with the black flames and come for him. Zeus made a swift and smart decision to not overestimate his might and wait for reinforcement. He understood that without divinities, the Paragon would always come on top against the lesser celestial unigens due to the boosting effects of the symbols. That's why Lilith was considered an upper celestial and feared across the realm. Meanwhile, Felix couldn't be bothered with Zeus' escape. He merely glanced in his direction and turned his focus back on Poseidon. While the strike had harmed Poseidon, it wasn't enough to kill him. His form rematerialized from water particles attached to the flying trident, which provided him with enough distance to recoup his thoughts and strategy. **T, he turned into a freaking monster in no time. Damn you, Lilith! Poseidon cursed with bloodshot eyes. As the one experiencing the hammer strike directly, he knew, no, he was certain, that Felix would beat them to smithereens in each confrontation. Thus, instead of putting his pride to the test, he also decided to wait for reinforcement. Alas, Felix was too strapped for time to let them have their way. Before Poseidon could work out some guarding measures, he suddenly felt a massive weight placed on his shoulders. This wasn't just any force, it was as if the entire realm's weight bore down upon the sea god, an oppressive, crushing force that mimicked the inescapable grasp of the deep ocean's abyss. Territorial pressure. Poseidon found himself suddenly and irrevocably trapped, his back arching painfully under the invisible burden, his godly visage marred by a grimace of distress. Stripped of his divinities, Poseidon's resistance was reduced to sheer willpower against the pressure. It was a formidable force, indeed, but starkly insufficient against the magnitude of Felix's imposed dream realm pressure. Then, amid his struggle, Felix appeared before him with a predatory gaze, a figure of vengeance wreathed in the sinister glow of crimson flames. Wait, let's talk things through. Poseidon knew that he was in a massive disadvantageous position and tried to waste some time with his mouth. Alas, before he could finish his sentence, a flaming fist landed directly on his lips, busting them open instantly. Bam! 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 Then, a barrage of blows rained down on the beleaguered sea god. Each strike carried the fury of an inferno, a physical manifestation of Felix's wrath that seared not just the flesh but the very essence of Poseidon. With no divinities to shield him and his own will crumbling under the relentless onslaught, Poseidon could do nothing but rely on his abilities for protection. Mirror Lake. Poseidon, with the defiant glare that belied his earlier disadvantage, summoned the ancient force of the seas. His hands moved through the air with practiced grace, tracing patterns that invoked to the very essence of water. In an instant, the ground beneath their feet shimmered and transformed into a vast, serene surface, mirroring the sky above with uncanny precision. This was the Mirror Lake, an ability known to trap even the mightiest in a dimension of reflections. As Felix advanced, intent on continuing his assault, he found his image reflected at him, not just once but infinitely, each reflection perfectly mimicking his movements. The lake, a trap as much as it was a weapon, sought to ensnare Felix in a maze of his visage, turning his aggression against him. However, the mirror wasn't used for its intended purpose, as it was capable of creating infinite reflections of Poseidon. Poof! Poseidon imploded into water particles and those reflections emerged as an army in his place against Felix. You asked for this. With a unified shout, Poseidon's infinite reflections slammed their palms against the lake's surface. The very air between them hummed with tension as Poseidon invoked control over the most elemental aspect of life, water. Cellular implosion. With a deafening command, he targeted the water molecules within Felix's body. The command was simple yet terrifying in its implications: to implode, to collapse inward with unimaginable force at the most fundamental level of existence. 1683 Zeus/Poseidon vs the Paragon. 2. Felix, caught in the invisible grip of Poseidon's will, felt a disturbing shift within him. It was as if the very essence of his being, the countless cells that composed his form, trembled on the brink of annihilation. For a moment, the boundary between life and unmaking blurred, as the water molecules in his body received the catastrophic order to collapse into themselves. As the water unigen, he was the only one capable of doing this. He could even control the blood of his targets through the water content within it. In a sense, he could be said to control blood laws too. Unfortunately for him, Felix had known about all of his strengths and weaknesses and came prepared against such attacks. Interesting attempt, but still, a foolish one, Felix said with a stone face as turned his body into a manifestation of fire itself. Poseidon's infinite reflections watched with distressed looks as Felix's humanoid fire form suddenly started turning hotter and brighter until the flames were no longer seen. You want me to self-implode? You got it. Felix gave Poseidon's reflections one last look before mouthing out, boom. The instant the word registered in Poseidon's mind, Felix's body could no longer be seen and was replaced with an expanding sphere of blinding light. Poseidon, witnessing the gathering storm of energy with a mixture of anger and dread, reacted with the only countermeasure he deemed could quench such a conflagration. With a sweeping gesture, he summoned the coldest force, the chill of absolute zero. The chill surged forth, a wave of freezing death meant to encase the nascent supernova in a tomb of ice, to stop the explosion before it could begin. The very fabric of the realm trembled as these opposing forces met, the explosive heat of a dying star wrestling with the unfathomable cold that could freeze time itself. The air between the two forces shimmered with the tension of their confrontation, mist and steam rising wherever they collided. It was as if the very principles of creation and destruction were at odds, battling for supremacy in a dance as old as the cosmos itself. Good, good, keep holding him down. Zeus murmured as he watched the confrontation with his outstretched senses while being on the move. He didn't know how big the dream realm was and understood that leaving it without divinities involved would be near impossible unless Felix was foolish enough to leave them an opening. While Felix didn't waste too many of the stored dreams on wishes, he made sure to seal the dream realm like the spirit realm. I have to be careful at all times. Zeus narrowed his eyes in focus. He is attempting to devour our cores simultaneously. Otherwise, he would have. Before he could his sentence, Felix transcended the space between them, appearing beside Zeus in the blink of an eye. The suddenness of his appearance caught Zeus off guard, a rare lapse for the god of thunder. Before Zeus could muster his divine might or comprehend the full extent of the threat, Felix exerted his territorial pressure. You. With Zeus immobilized, Felix issued a silent command to Asna's core, a directive that was both a demand and an inevitability. The core began devouring Zeus's essence at his command, while the god looked on in terror. The cores intertwined, initiating a transfer of power that was both visible and intangible, a spectacle of light and energy that heralded a significant shift in the cosmic balance. Felix did not linger for even a nanosecond. Instead, he blinked back to his original position with Zeus linked with him forcefully. Arg! Zeus growled in agony after emerging in the heart of an active supernova without the ability to escape, now that the cores were merging. Hey! Hearing Zeus' pained screams coming from the supernova left Poseidon with a stunned expression, having no idea what had just happened. Suddenly, he felt his danger senses tingling like there was no tomorrow, leaving him agitated and antsy as to what was about to come. Just as he was about to ditch his lake and change locations, taking advantage of the absolute zero chill around him, the supernova died out, returning to a tiny point and allowing the chill to expand furiously. Alas, this expansion was short-lived, as the instant the supernova disappeared, a dark point appeared in its place. Let there be nothingness. With a faint murmur from Felix, the tiny dark point expanded to a couple of million kilometers in the blink of an eye and turned the entire zone into nothingness. The absolute zero chill was devoured, the lake disappeared, the heavens darkened, the ground shattered, and the reflections were eradicated one by one until a single Poseidon was left floating by in nothingness. Ice of Immortality. You can relax now. Before Poseidon could even utilize another ability to protect himself, Felix appeared behind him and patted him on the shoulder. As Poseidon turned his head slowly with dread etched on his eyes and heart beating akin to a horse galloping on a field, Felix ordered coldly near his ears, "Devour him." A few moments ago, after striking Poseidon with his divine hammer, I have to devour their cores simultaneously, and for that, I need to pull back a bit on my attacks and plan a way. Felix remarked as he gazed at his divine hammer. He was accustomed to battling Unigens, causing him to attack immediately with full force. I can't believe our boy reached a level where he needs to pull out his punches against Unigens. Thor didn't know whether to laugh or cry at this development. Strength is king. Lord Shiva stated indifferently, Unigens, gods, or whatnot, all can be put down if single has an overwhelming level of strength. This is exactly what Felix has now. Elder Kraken added, he is at the peak of a Unigen's strength limit, and the only ones capable of stopping him are the upper celestials. Unlike the three rulers who could grow infinitely depending on the celestial energy in their possession, the Unigens could not surpass single 100 million BF no matter what they did. It was a limitation imposed on them by the universe, and whether it was an upper or lesser Unigen, the limitation was applied. It was like a mortal endeavor to break past the single million mark and become a deity. It was doable but near impossible. Zeus and the rest of the lesser Unigens' main goal were to reach this limitation and surpass it. Unfortunately, with the petty amount of celestial energy their territories could gather and taxes imposed on them, even after billions of years, none of them had managed to reach 70 million BF naturally. Natural in the sense that the increase was permanent instead of using temporal ways like what Felix was currently doing with sigils. It was not easy in the slightest to hit single 100 million BF, and at the moment only the current active upper celestial Unigens reached it. While Felix didn't seem affected negatively by reaching the Unigens' peak and could no longer surpass it since both Zeus and Poseidon were far from it, the same couldn't be stated about his clones. Those monsters, even with the time difference between realms, it's best to finish this quickly to carry on with the main plan. Felix commented with a hint of dread after witnessing what was happening to single of his clones in the Unigens' territories. While he was fighting those two, his clones were dealing with none other than the three rulers themselves to protect the eternal black flames. Thus, he swiftly returned to his problem at hand. I have to use either a distraction or bait to bring those two together again. As Felix's mind was brewing a plan, he swiftly teleported next to Poseidon and began raining on him with a barrage of flaming fists. 1684 The first ruler's might. On the other side. Amid the once tranquil territory of Athena, now a battleground of clashing elements, a clone of Felix stood at the heart of the chaos, mirroring his creator's formidable power. As he focused, his hair ignited into vibrant flames, a fiery crown that mirrored Felix's own, signaling the unleashing of his full potential. Whoosh! Whoosh! Around him, the black flames he commanded surged with renewed vigor, a dark tide spreading relentlessly across the realm. These sinister flames devoured everything in their path, transforming the terrain into a nightmarish expanse. Child, you shouldn't have done this. Suddenly, a divine authoritative voice came down from the heavens, causing Felix to lift his head with a murderous look. He recognized the voice to be of the first ruler, as he could never forget the one who kidnapped his beloved right in front of him. As he looked up, he saw a massive golden hand descending upon him, its absolute size throwing the landscape below into shadow. This was no mere display of divine might, it was the will of the first ruler manifesting, a celestial decree that sought to quell the chaos Felix had wrought. *T. I can't get hit by that. After being told about the might of the three rulers in detail by Lilith, Felix respected and feared their strength more than anything else. Thus, he didn't hesitate to try and get out of the palm's way. Alas, the understanding dawned upon him swiftly and mercilessly, he was ensnared by the celestial decree, an invisible, unbreakable chain that bound him in his place. The air around him thickened, time slowed to a crawl, and even the act of lifting his arm became a Herculean effort. The celestial decree. Felix's expression turned for the worse. He knew that the celestial decree was like being put under the territorial pressure of the entire eternal kingdom. This type of territorial pressure was exclusive to the three rulers and could only be applied in the eternal kingdom. The only way to counter such pressure or at least mitigate it was through using one's territorial pressure or celestial powers. Although Felix was aware of the overwhelming pressure, he did not expect it to be potent enough to affect him even when protected by the celestial black flames. Still, he had no plans to let this stop him. With a resolve forged in the fires of countless battles, he mustered his strength, channeling the very essence of his being into a singular act of resistance. His hand, trembling under the immense pressure, rose slowly, a testament to his unyielding will. I ain't making this easy for you. With a roar that seemed to split the very fabric of the realm, the clone released his counter, a massive palm, crafted from the black flames underneath, causing it to resemble a giant palm tree attached to an ocean. This creation, a symbol of his power and defiance, swelled upwards to meet the golden divine palm in a collision that promised to shake the foundations of the kingdom itself. Will he win? Athena watched the upcoming impact with bated breath from a distance while giving her absolute best to quench the black flames. Even though Felix had attacked her territory, she didn't hate him in the slightest as she treated the whole matter as a business matter, she came for him first and he retaliated. Nothing more, nothing less. Thus, at the depth of her heart in a small place, she kinda wished that he would win against the first ruler, at least in this small confrontation. Felix, please don't overdo it. Meanwhile, Asna's heart was about to beat out of her chest in agitation and worry as she watched this scene. She had no idea what was going through his mind and the only thing she could do was trust in his vision as always. Boom! With a thunderous explosion that sent destructive shockwaves across the kingdom, the two divine palms were finally connected, from the tip of the fingers to the back of the palm. The golden palm, a manifestation of celestial authority, met its match in the clone's blazing defiance, a standoff that encapsulated the eternal struggle between the dictates of the heavens and the indomitable will of those who dare to challenge fate. Arg! Felix kept drawing upon the boundless depths of celestial black flames underneath, pouring more and more energy into his palm, determined to not just hold his ground but to push back against the divine mandate that sought to crush him. The palms locked in a stalemate, neither yielding, radiated a blinding light that illuminated the cosmos. Amid this cosmic tug-of-war, Felix's mind resonated with the voice of the first ruler, a telepathic outreach that cut through the chaos with clarity and calm. Why do you strive so against us, child? We are not your enemies, nor have we sought to harm you, the ruler inquired, his tone one of genuine puzzlement and a hint of sorrow for the path Felix had chosen. You never wished to harm me. Ha, ha ha. Ha ha. Felix broke into a burst of chaotic laughter as he had just heard one of the sickest jokes. What about the smite? King smited out of nowhere, killing me instantly. He didn't even need to mention Asna and what they did to her. Just the fact that the three rulers had decided to kill him on a whim out of nowhere was enough reason to never reconcile with them. Child, if we wanted to kill you, you wouldn't be standing before us now. The first ruler replied calmly without any further explanation. As much as Felix hated to admit it, he knew that he was being for real. If the three rulers were to decide his damnation, that smite would have erased his soul. And now, I extend an olive branch, the ruler continued, his offer hanging between them like a beacon in the storm. Let bygones be bygones. You may dwell with Asna near the heart of the universe, where peace and love can flourish unimpeded. All that is required is for you to bow your head and extinguish the flames that threaten to consume everything. The offer was generous, a promise of reconciliation and a chance for Felix to live in tranquility with Asna, away from the strife and battles that had marked their existence. But, even if the condition to bow his head wasn't involved, Felix wouldn't bat an eye at such a humiliating offer. Peace and love. Live near the universe's heart? Even when you aren't trying to, your tone makes it clear that you are treating us as some sort of pets. Felix replied with a tightened fist and a suppressed icy voice, I know all about your plan and what you are trying to do with Asna's core. So, tell me now, are you going to let her be free when the time comes to commence your plan? Asna's core was her heart, and if the three rulers still wanted to use it for their scheme, then, it would be the same as killing Asna. The first ruler didn't need time to think about it as he responded with the same emotionless voice, for the sake of reaching the other side, all sacrifices are worth it. You would understand this if you were in our position. I will never understand it and I don't want to. Felix sneered coldly, as long as you have Asna in leashes, we will be at odds until the dawn of the universe. How disappointing, expected response, but disappointing nevertheless. The first ruler sighed, seemingly genuinely disappointed at not being able to bring Felix to his side. You might be all great and powerful now, but there will come a day, sooner or later, a day, where your heads will be the ones bowing to me. With a dark grimace, Felix bellowed, this is just the beginning. As the sound wave of his shout traveled far and wide, the scene that accompanied it left Athena and the rest of the watchers with widened eyes in shock. Whoosh! The black flaming palm emerged victorious as it engulfed the golden palm and continued pushing forth into the heavens, growing bigger and more powerful like Felix was seeking to smack the first ruler in the face. He won, he actually won. 1685 The first ruler's might. 2. Alas, before Felix, Asna, and the rest could feel a tint of happiness at his victory, a deep sigh came from high above. So be it. The instant this sentence registered in everyone's minds, the feeling of happiness died out instantly and their hearts turned cold all of a sudden. Their reaction was an understatement as their widened pupils reflected a scene that was enough to stop commoners' hearts at first glance. From the same heavens, descended another palm that was 100 times the size of the initial golden palm, dwarfing it and everything else in its vicinity. It was so massive that the clouds were forced to part ways and the wind seemed like it was trying to hold the hand of a god, but to no avail. Its descent was slow yet inexorable, a golden avalanche in the void of space, casting a shadow that spoke of finality and judgment. Felix, Athena, Asna, and everyone else watched in a mix of awe and despair as this divine edict made its way toward the small flaming black palm. The disparity in size and power was not just visible, it was palpable, a clear message from the cosmos itself about the hierarchy that governed existence. As the two palms neared contact, there was a palpable tension, a silent hope against hope that perhaps, just perhaps, the black flame palm could withstand the golden decree. Yet, as they touched, that hope was extinguished as swiftly and mercilessly as a candle in a storm. The black flame, for all its ferocity and defiance, was snuffed out, leaving no trace behind, as if it had never been. The massive golden palm, unimpeded, continued on its path toward Felix's clone. At that moment, time seemed to slow, a quiet before the inevitable end. As expected, the clone, faced with the immensity of the power bearing down upon him, closed his eyes in resignation, accepting his fate with a somber dignity. At the moment, he had no fantasies of defeating the three rulers. He knew their strength far surpassed his own. Thus, he extended both hands outwards with great difficulty and took the impact face on, knowing that he could neither teleport away nor resist. The divine palm was like a massive canceller to anything related to laws and elements since it was created out of the four divinities. Even when Felix was engulfed in his black flames, he could not avoid the cancelling effect unless the abilities were already created. Thus, even when the clone had nearly 100 million BF, the supermassive golden palm completely buried him out of existence, pushing him into the depths of the ocean. Instead of the golden palm disappearing, it broke into a wave of golden celestial flames and got carried on with the rising tsunamis until they met with the eternal black flames in their path. Just like what the second ruler did in the capital, the golden flames spread out around the eternal black flames until a gigantic circular was created and contained the wildfire within. This time, there was no one to guide the black flames and they could only die out slowly and surely under the eyes of the watchers. As for Felix's clone, he was nowhere to be seen. He sure pushed their nerves to use this amount of celestial energy for a mere clone. Athena commentated, not knowing if she should feel relieved at her territory being saved or bothered by the notion that the only one daring to rise against the three rulers was dogged. In the end, all she could do was sigh deeply and spread her senses to other territories to see what was going on. As expected, he was smart enough to pull away the rest of the clones after seeing what happened, Athena remarked after noticing that Felix's clones had ditched their territories, teleporting somewhere unknown before the rulers could put their hands on them. Meanwhile, Apollo, Eris, and the rest of the Unigens also thought the same, leaving them each with their own reaction. Phew, that will make it easier to deal with the black flames. Artemis sighed in relief, having no interest in battling Felix in the slightest. Unfortunately for her, she had lost the coin toss as Felix had some difficulty deciding whether to target her territory or Apollo's. After all, he had only 6 clones and there were 7 Unigens domains remaining. The reason he found it difficult to choose between them was because Artemis was one of the few Unigens who rejected the decision to seal Asna while Apollo didn't assault Felix twice during both of his battles against Hephaestus. If Apollo wasn't fickle and he believed he could turn on him instantly, he would have chosen him without bothering with such thing as a coin toss. Speaking about the devil, he could be seen sitting in the identical corner from before with his nails in his mouth, biting them with a frantic and distressed look. The 3 rulers have used one clone as an example, so the others can run away and help them avoid wasting too much of their celestial energy on them. Apollo's alter ego remarked with a shadowy fading tone like his voice had no stable frequency. "Brother, for the love of God, leave me be. I am missing on creating the best masterpieces known to the kingdom." Apollo begged with a tint of vexation and helplessness, "Just this once. I can't miss such a performance." Apollo watched the entire confrontation between the first ruler and Felix's clone. It pained him to a godly level to miss on producing a score for it. Alas, at the moment, his control over his body wasn't completely in his hands. "Shut up, I have been letting you screw around forever and it's time to return to our rightful purpose." His alter ego remarked coldly, "The new paragon is the key to fulfilling that dream and I need you to bring him down to me in one piece." "Bring him to you? Are you nuts?" Apollo chided, "Doing that is the identical as going against the 3 rulers and betraying the kingdom as a whole. We will be cast away forever. Do I look like I care?" Apollo's alter ego ordered with a rigid voice, "Bring me to me or I will handle it. You know full well what will happen if I took the lead." Apollo felt chills course down his spine, understanding that if his darkness alter ego were to ever regain control, chaos would arise in the kingdom. "Ah! You stupid prick! My life was going too smoothly and you just have to keep ruining it." Apollo cried out loud in his mind in frustration, but he received no response. The darkness in his right eye retreated and this made him understand that his alter ego was done talking and it was time for action. Either he handled this mission on his terms or he would take the lead. Apollo had no plans to let the letter occur. *T, how am I supposed to bring him there when the 3 rulers and Uranus are on his ass? I don't even know where his main consciousness is. Apollo criticized as he gazed at the sky, knowing that he must have created his dream realm at the furthest distance possible from the kingdom. 1686 20 million years ago. You look distressed, Apollo. Is there something in your mind? Eris asked with a peering look. Not now, Eris. Apollo replied with an irritated tone while turning himself into a flash of light. Before he could finish the transformation, Eris advised calmly, I hope you don't do anything you will come to regret later on. Apollo merely gave her a hopeless glance before disappearing into nothingness. Ah, little paragon, you sure have disturbed a peace that lasted for eons. All of this, and you will still not be able to save her as much as I want you to succeed. Eris murmured to herself as she watched the black flames getting snuffed out bit by bit. Meanwhile, at the summit of the palace. Your lover doesn't know any better. The first ruler shook his head as he addressed the Tenstasna. I offered him an olive branch, a promise, and he spat on it. A promise? Like the one you offered me when I was a child. Asna replied with a look boiling with hatred, you monsters deserve to be locked up for eternity. She watched what happened to Felix's clone, and while it made her heart unsettled, it also made her love Felix even more as he dared to do something she never dared to do. That was standing up against the three rulers' tyranny even when their overwhelming authority and strength were enough to cripple anyone. We did what we had to do and you know it. The third ruler said calmly. Keep saying that to make yourself feel better. Asna sneered as the buried memories of her childhood resurfaced in her mind. She would never forget the treatment and the betrayal she received when she was a child, as it made her lose complete trust in the rulers and other Unigans. No one could blame her. 20 million years ago, the Eternal Kingdom seemed like a realm of unparalleled splendor and abundance, a stark contrast to its present state. At the heart of this celestial magnificence was the dimensional pocket, the sacred and secluded space that housed the universe's heart. This heart, a cosmic entity of unfathomable power and mystery, pulsed with the lifeblood of creation itself, celestial energy. It appeared as though the abundant celestial energy had seeped into the very soil of the kingdom, giving birth to landscapes of unparalleled beauty. Near the universe's heart, above the same majestic platforms, the three rulers could be seen seated akin to unmovable statues. Our previous attempt to break through the universe's heart was deemed as a failure, and our punishment was the halving of the celestial energy output. The second ruler remarked calmly. I do not consider it as a failure. We have caused it some damage, and I am certain a second attempt will completely shatter it and forge our path to freedom at last. The prophecy hasn't changed its instructions or the outcome, so it means we are on the right path. The first ruler said as he glanced at the tiny cracks on the surface of the intense white dot. Our second attempt will depend on the key that's about to come. The third ruler said with a solemn tone as he glanced at the prophecy tablet above them. This day was a very, very special day for the three rulers. It was marked out of great importance in the prophecy, and one could even say that if they didn't follow the prophecy's instructions, their end goal would change forever. Thus, they had been waiting for this day with great patience. Whoosh! Suddenly, the universe's heart pulsed with a rich wave of celestial energy, attracting the three rulers' attention. Then, it began to shimmer more intensely, its light coalescing into a spectacle unseen in eons. From this blinding luminosity, a phenomenon occurred that would mark a new chapter in the annals of the cosmos. A small female toddler, born not of flesh and blood but of starlight and celestial whispers, emerged into existence. A sentinel celestial being. Is this the key? The three rulers seemed surprised by the emergence of the toddler, as they didn't expect the key to be another celestial being. But, they remained silent and watched as the universe's heart breathed life into the toddler, turning her hair into a vibrant shade of crimson, cascaded down like a river of fire, contrasting starkly with her ethereal, fair skin, which radiated a soft, otherworldly glow. Her eyes, golden and resplendent, sparkled with the light of 1,000 stars, holding within them the mysteries of the universe and the innocence of new life. These eyes gazed upon the three rulers with wonder and curiosity. Whoosh! With one last pulse of celestial energy, the universe's heart became slightly dim and the celestial energy expelled seemed to have been reduced significantly. Before the three rulers could react to this, a booming thunderclap resounded loudly throughout the entire universe, breaking everyone's thought process. It was one of the loudest thunderclaps ever recorded in the universe's history, and not even Felix's thunderclaps could match it. The three rulers completely ignored it. Their deep frowns were visible through the blinding light, indicating their displeasure with the significant reduction in the output of celestial energy. How can she require so much energy to be born? The third ruler commented, it's at least triple what we needed to come into existence, combined. To be considered as the key, it's only logical to consume this much. The first ruler said calmly, she must be a special entity. Let's hope so. The second ruler sighed, her birth must have set us back for millions of years again. The prophecy has never led us wrong, have some faith. The first ruler remarked as he eyed Asna, who was giggling childishly while spinning around herself in midair. Whoosh! Whoosh! Suddenly, two portals opened up in front of the three rulers' platforms. One was chaotic and the other radiated with intense cosmic energy. Eris and Uranus stepped out from them with looks of intrigue. I have heard a disturbance. Before Eris could finish her sentence, her eyes were pulled into little Asna. What's this cute thing? Supposedly, the key to our freedom. The second ruler replied. How so? Uranus queried as he teleported in front of little Asna and narrowed his eyes in focus, appearing quite menacing with his star-like eyes and wrinkled old face. AAA. AAA. Instead of being afraid, Asna started laughing while holding Uranus' white beard, seemingly enjoying its harsh sensation. The prophecy says nothing about her or how she will help us escape from this eternal prison. The first ruler remarked composedly, we have to figure things out by ourselves. How about Cronus? Uranus frowned, can't you seek his help on this? I don't think the chronicle fog will be there. Since it's related to the prophecy, I am certain the chronicle fog will occur. The third ruler rejected the proposal as he gazed at a small sentence written on the prophecy tablet. The tablet has formed it clear that peering into the future is forbidden. As the owners of the three celestial languages, the rulers had control over all the elements in the universe, including time. Thus, even without the space/time Unigen's help, they could easily peer into the future and make their lives easier. Alas, they had already tried this and the result wasn't promising as much as it was mysterious. Every time they attempted to peer into the future with matters related to the prophecy or the other side, there would be a black static-like fog, hindering their sight. Even Cronus wasn't able to pierce through it, and this made them understand that either the universe or the entity responsible for the creation of the prophecy tablet had a hand in it. Thus, the three rulers gave up on the thought of peering into the future and placed their faith in the prophecy. They were that desperate as they had already tried many other ways to obtain their freedom and failed. So, what do we do with her exactly? Uranus asked as he gazed at Asna with Eris and the three rulers. What else? Eris responded with a gentle smile as she lifted Asna in her arms. We nurture her while slowly studying her. What do we call her? Eris, with a gentle smile that belied the immense power she wielded, knelt to meet the child's gaze. She seems like a beacon of light in the vastness of space, a harmony amidst the chaos. The child looked up with curiosity, her golden eyes reflecting the glow of the celestial bodies that danced above. In you, I see the elegance of the cosmos, the grace of its boundless dance. Eris continued, her words painting the essence of the name she had chosen. And so, you shall be recognized as Asnalaya, a union of Asna, symbolizing the radiant light you embody, and Leia, embodying the grace with which you traverse the cosmos. Asnalaya, hearing her name for the first time, smiled, a simple gesture that held the promise of countless wonders. Yet, whatever. Uranus waved his head with an annoyed look, you named her, you shall nurture her. I want nothing to do with her. It's not like she wants you to. Eris chuckled at the sight of Asna ignoring Uranus completely. 1687 20 million years ago. 2. A decade later. Little Asna grew from the mysterious child birthed by the universe's heart into a spirited and rowdy 10-year-old. With crimson hair that danced like flames in the cosmic wind and golden eyes shimmering with mischief, she became a whirlwind of energy and laughter, a stark contrast to the solemnity of the celestial beings that inhabited this realm. "Asna, who is gonna be our next target?" Apollo asked with a mischievous grin. Little Asna was sitting above his shoulders with a wide playful smirk. She tapped her little finger on her chin and murmured thoughtfully, "It's always fun to mess with Uncle Hephaestus and watch him lose his mind and chase us down. But, I think we have pranked him enough." "True, true, so who's our next victim? It's been a while since we paid Uncle Poseidon a visit." Little Asna giggled, "It's only fair we show him some love too. As expected of my trusty partner." Apollo gave her a high five while chuckling, "You read my mind." In the blink of an eye, Little Asna and Apollo arrived at the gates of Poseidon's territory and remained hidden with Apollo's spiritual pressure. "You do it or I do it?" Apollo asked telepathically. "I can try, but I don't think I will be as good as you." Little Asna replied, her voice as childish as it could be, yet she was discussing ruining a Unigen's day like it was a normal habit. "Go for it, I will assist you." With a shared nod, Little Asna extended her hands, her fingertips glowing with a potent mix of elemental energy, while Apollo struck a chord so powerful it resonated through the very fabric of the cosmos. In an instant, light vanished from Poseidon's territory. The luminous underwater cities, the shimmering coral forests, and the radiant paths that meandered through his domain were plunged into unexpected darkness. Creatures of the deep, accustomed to the perpetual glow of celestial underwater, paused in confusion, their bioluminescent hues flickering uncertainly in the sudden night. A blackout? The hell? Poseidon, who had been admiring a newly formed coral constellation, found himself enveloped in darkness. His trident glowed dimly as he summoned his powers to restore the light, only to realize the source of this playful sabotage. With a thunderous roar that stirred the waves, he bellowed, "Asna! Apollo!" Poseidon surged through his waters with the force of 1,000 currents, his form a brilliant streak of light as he sought out the culprits. "Run! He! He is mad, mad!" Little Asna and Apollo, laughing heartily, darted and weaved through the cosmic seas, their laughter echoing like bells across the void. They were a blur of motion, a comet chased by a tempest, as they maneuvered through Poseidon's realm with gleeful agility. Despite his annoyance, Poseidon couldn't help but be caught up in the thrill of the chase, his scowl gradually giving way to a grudging amusement. "You cannot outrun the Lord of the Oceans!" he thundered, yet his voice bore a hint of laughter, a testament to the infectious joy that little Asna brought into their lives. With Asna's birth, the entire atmosphere in the kingdom had changed as the Unigens stopped attempting to conquer each other's territories, and this allowed them to move freely across the kingdom without a worry. It was like they were her parents, and it made them feel weird to have her see them fighting each other over celestial energy. Thus, in the past decade, everyone treated Asna as a little princess even when she kept pranking them and annoying them constantly. Even the easily and stern Unigens like Hephaestus and Demeter never took offense to Asna's actions and indulged her daily. It was an understandable reaction since the Unigens were all born at the beginning of time and grew together. None of them had seen an actual child-size Unigen on the same status as them, which made them consider her as their actual child. Her presence could be stated to have breathed a sense of peace and love in their hearts that only children could do. Annoying brats! After a short chase, Poseidon could only return to his territory with a vexed expression. He knew that catching little Asna was near impossible with Apollo as her wingman. "We had him for good." Little Asna laughed while clapping her hands cutely. "It was all you, little one." Apollo praised, "You are getting better and better at manipulating the laws." "Well, of course." Asna boasted, "I have the best teachers." "Who's number one?" Apollo coughed while pointing his finger at himself. Just as Asna was about to tease him, the first ruler's stern voice resounded in her mind. "Asnalaya," he called, his tone imbued with the weight of eons, "come." Asna became visibly upset at being summoned, acting like a child who got summoned by her parents to come home while playing outside with her friends. "What's wrong?" Apollo asked. "I have to go." Asna pouted, "The elders have called me." "I see, let me take you there then." Apollo patted her on the head with a soft smile, "We will continue our games later on." "Ah, they will just make me try to open the universe's heart again." Asna complained, "How am I supposed to do that?" "Just try your best." Apollo stated with a wry smile, "It will make your elders happy." "Fie, I guess." "Good girl." Apollo knew deep down that Asna's ending wouldn't be great if no positive results were provided with her assistance. Knowing the three rulers' insane obsession with freedom and celestial energy made him understand that they would not stop until they tried everything with Asna. "Let's hope it won't be that deep." He sighed inwardly. In almost no time, Apollo dropped off little Asna in front of the Dimensional Pockets gate and took off. The gate opened up for Asna and she went inside swiftly, wanting to get this over with fast so she could return to her games. After arriving at the platforms, she noticed that Eris and Uranus were also there. Her eyes lit up in happiness as she rushed to Eris. "Auntie!" she summoned cutely while jumping into her embrace, making Eris show a faint gentle smile. "Are you still misbehaving and causing trouble for your uncles and aunts?" Eris asked. "Of course." Asna nodded excitedly. "Good job." Eris chuckled with admiration, as she had always been a lover of chaos. "Stop wasting our time and listen to your elders," Uranus stated with a stern tone. Asna mocked him with her tongue out and swiftly flew towards the three rulers, knowing that Uranus had no issue with disciplining her, unlike the rest who indulged her rotten. Uranus' eyelids twitched in irritation, but he didn't comment on the matter. "You know what do?" the first ruler stated composedly as he gazed at little Asna. "All right." Little Asna murmured while walking to the universe's heart, "It's going to be the same." The three rulers ignored her negative comment and watched with a hint of hope in their eyes as she extended with her hands at the mesmerizing orb of light that throbbed with the lifeblood of creation itself. She reached out, not with just her hands, but with her mind too, her thoughts tender and inquiring, like whispers in the vast silence of space. "Please open up, please, please, so I can continue playing interrupted." She projected, her intent clear and devoid of any desire to dominate. She didn't care about the other side, what was on it, the Unigens and the ruler's freedom, or such complicated matters. All she wanted was the universe's heart to respond to her wishes, so she wouldn't be bothered with this again. Alas, the universe's heart didn't fulfill her wishes. Instead, it started releasing massive pulses of celestial energy through Asna's palms, seemingly desiring to feed her. When the rulers saw this, they glanced at each other for a moment and then shook their heads in disappointment. Failure again. 1688 20 million years ago. 3. That's enough. The third ruler pulled Asna away from the universe's heart, interrupting the absorption process. Asna didn't seem to care that much about this and simply requested with a puppy look. "Can I go out now?" "You may leave." Without an ounce of hesitation, Asna bolted out of the place like it was a detention center, just to swiftly return and give Eris another hug and mock Uranus on the way out. "What a brat!" Uranus cursed under his breath, "How is she the key to our freedom? She is just an irritating brat who keeps stealing tons of celestial energy every time she touches the heart." In the past decade, the three rulers had figured out that Asna was capable of manipulating all the elements and laws without exception, which left everyone astounded and shocked. Her existence made them understand that Asna's position should be higher than the three rulers in the eyes of the universe. This notion was enough to create ripples across the kingdom and hail Asna as the epitome of celestial creation, to the point of bestowing upon her the ultimate title, the origin of laws. The fact that she was believed as the key to everyone's freedom made the Unigens treat her with extra care regardless of her being a child. Alas, year after year, the three rulers requested Asna to attempt and gain access to the universe's heart with many different methods, but to no avail. They even tried forceful methods, but nothing resulted from it. Have some faith. The first ruler said calmly, the prophecy hasn't given us any new instructions, we either must be doing something wrong or the right time hasn't come yet. It's no longer about faith anymore and you know it. Uranus remarked with a solemn tone, the fact that she can still absorb celestial energy with such a crazed appetite means that she still has an awakening phase. I don't need to spell out to you how bad that would be for us. The assembly hall went silent. The three rulers knew more than anyone else that awakening phases consumed at least 10 times the amount of the birth phase. The fact that Asna's birth almost dried their well and paralyzed their ecosystem made them understand that her awakening would absolutely destroy the eternal kingdom and what it stands for. So, what's going on in your minds? Eris inquired. She understood that there would come a point where they would be forced to keep Asna away from the universe's heart, the dimensional pocket, the eternal kingdom, and then even the universe. The older Unigens grew, the more their bodies would be inclined to absorb nearby compatible energies to ensure their awakening. In the case of Apollo, Zeus, and the rest, they would be absorbing elemental energies related to their laws or even neutral energy and transforming it into their compatible energies. As for the three rulers, they couldn't awaken even if they wanted. Yet, Asna was the most special case of them. They had attempted to help her awaken by using elemental energies, believing that since she was compatible with all elements and laws, it would be much easier for her to awaken. Unfortunately, she ended up rejecting all kinds of energies and accepted only celestial energy when it came to feeding her awakening phase. This was one of the main reasons she was allowed entry to the dimensional pocket only once a year during her attempt to unlock it. Otherwise, she would keep sucking the heart dry automatically and no one could do anything about it, not even her. Isn't clear yet. Uranus answered for the three rulers with a cold sneer, if the brat won't make herself useful, we will be forced to seal her away and cast her as far as possible from the core. Otherwise, if she awakened. Uranus didn't need to continue his sentence as everyone here recognized the hidden danger of Asna's existence. The fact that her social status was on the same level as the three rulers before her awakening made them understand that the instant she awakened, she would be considered one rank higher than them. In other words, the control of the entire universe would be under her hands as not even the three rulers would match up to her. It's too soon to make such decisions. The second uttered, all we can do is keep trying until she reaches adolescence, if nothing changes by then we can try a different approach. Unigen's adolescence was after 1 millennial or 2 at most. When a Unigen entered adolescence, they experienced a significant increase in absorption speed and reach of elemental energy, facilitating their awakening. It was like the universe was giving the Unigens some time to discover themselves before chaining them for good after their awakening, and forcing them to respect their duties. You mentioned sealing her away. Eris asked with a puzzled tone, how exactly are you going to achieve this? What do you mean? Uranus frowned, are you implying she won't be receptive to our usual seals? She is right. The first ruler shared, our Unigen-based seals target their laws specifically. In Asnalaya's case, she has control over all laws, elements, and celestial energy. It's nearly impossible to create a seal capable of keeping her from absorbing all of those energies at the same time. This. Uranus was left stunned. The three rulers had never used the term impossible before. What does this mean then? Uranus asked with a slightly heated look, we are going to place our lives and freedom in the hands of that brat? What if she awakened and still can't reach the other side? What if she awakened and decided to turn on us? What if she awakened and turned out to be the F***ing consciousness of the universe? Doesn't that mean we will become slaves for real? I refuse to accept this. You hear me? I refuse it. As his voice kept turning louder and louder, reality seemed to vibrate with his sound waves like it was on the verge of shattering. Settle down, you are losing your grip again. Eris calmed down the surrounding space with a flip of her page book, causing his voice to lose its effect on the surrounding reality. My apologies, you know how I get when anything touches my sense of freedom. Uranus took control of his emotions swiftly. I understand your agitation, but as I have said, it's too soon to make a decision or worry about such matters. The first ruler uttered with a low voice as he gazed at the tablet, the prophecy won't forsake us after we have reached this stage. Even when he uttered this, the first ruler seemed to be losing a bit of his conviction in the prophecy. His reaction was understandable as the prophecy tablet had no further instructions after awakening Asna. The only thing written was the steps before and the picture on the topmost part, showing a gap leading to nothingness. If all the predictions and instructions were written to reach that final result, it would possess been 100 times easier for them. Alas, all they could was accept it and work with what they had as there was no other path left. If only I had your optimism. Uranus muttered in irritation as he walked away, for all we know, this prophecy might be sent by the universe to recover its consciousness and all we are doing is helping it achieve it while accelerating our damnation. No one said anything as this assumption was resting rent-free in their minds ever since they discovered out about Asna being considered the origin of laws. Why do I possess an incline this will end badly? Eris smiled wryly as she watched Asna reuniting with Apollo to continue their foolish shenanigans. As the one who named her, she truly didn't desire something bad to happen to her. Alas, she knew as the goddess of order and disorder, naught was really in anyone's hands. 1689 The two unfortunate options. As time unfolded in the Eternal Kingdom, Asna had matured from her childish prankster behavior into a rebellious phase. Gone were the days when Apollo, her partner in cosmic jest, could easily coax her into turning the lights off in Poseidon's territory for a laugh. Now, Asna's defiance was of a different nature, a declaration of her autonomy, challenging the very fabric of celestial decrees and the expectations of the beings that had watched over her since her inception by the universe's heart. At the moment she could be seen flying away from the dimensional pocket with a bored expression. What a hassle! She yawned lazily. As the gate closed behind her, the three rulers, Eris and Uranus were left staring at each other in silence. It's been close to 1,000 years, 1,000 failed attempts. Are we still going to be delusional about this? Uranus said, this time his voice was devoid of any emotions like he had enough of such disappointment. His feelings were understandable. Asna had already entered her adolescence phase and her body started to absorb an insane quantity of celestial energy the instant she entered the dimensional pocket. Just now, she was believed to have absorbed more than 1% of the released celestial energy in less than a second. 1% might not seem a lot, but it was more than the quantity of celestial energy 5 unigens collected after an entire century of hard work. It was devoured in a second by Asna and for nothing positive in return. I admit, this situation isn't preferable at all. We have tried everything and it doesn't look like our approaches are ever going to work. The second ruler said with a deep low-pitched sigh. Even the all-knowing three rulers were left at their wits' ends about this situation. Unfortunately, we are left with two options. The first ruler said emotionlessly, we either trust that Asnalaya's awakening is the key to our freedom or we eliminate her. The third ruler continued coldly. How can you even consider her awakening as an option? Uranus sneered, I will never allow it. It's too much of a risk and we are already struggling with those heavy chains on our limbs. I have no intentions of adding a collar too. So, are you suggesting we eliminate her and continue with our previous attempt at brute forcing the universe's heart? Eris said with narrowed eyes, not a fan of such a suggestion. It's much better than putting our fates in the hands of that brat, Uranus uttered with a solemn tone. She is already rebelling against our orders and barely does anything we say unless we force her. Can you imagine how she will be if awakened? While the three rulers weren't saying anything in response, their decision was more inclined towards Uranus' reasoning. As the three rulers of the universe and the epitome of authority, it would never sit right with them to just hand it down to another being. It was expected for monarchs to cling to their thrones until their dying day, which led their heirs to stage a coup to overthrow them. The three rulers weren't any different. Have you considered that eliminating her might cause the universe's heart to give birth to her again later on? Eris shared calmly, you will be back at the starting point and with a much lower quantity of celestial energy. That's a calculated risk. Uranus reasoned, we know that the universe takes its sweet time before reviving a dead Unigen's core, and with Asna being a special case, it might take even longer. By then, we might have collected enough celestial energy to make a second attempt at breaking the heart. This is much better than allowing that brat to leech off our celestial energy daily. There was a short silence after he was done. Eris and Uranus kept waiting for the three rulers to join the discussion, as they knew that no matter what they said, the final decision would be in their hands. Even if the rest of the Unigens were brought up to date and had everything explained to them, most of them would choose the option benefiting the most. That was getting rid of Asna, as there was no such thing as mercy or familial love between them. If she was still in her early years, her childish innocence might have moved their hearts a little. It wouldn't affect their decision much, but it would make them feel some guilt about it. But now? Most of them treated Asna as an annoying teenager who had no respect for her seniors. There was no way she would receive the majority of votes in her favor when their bottom line would be affected. That was their little freedom. After all, while the three rulers were much more powerful and authoritative than them, they had no direct authority over them. But, if Asna awakened? There was a high chance that would change, and most of them would not be welcoming to the idea. I say, it's time we inform the other. Before the first ruler could finish his sentence, the assembly hall was suddenly pierced by a brilliant beam of light emanating directly from the universe's heart. This celestial phenomenon caused the three rulers to halt their discourse and turn their gaze toward the source of this unexpected illumination, the prophecy tablet. As the light struck the prophecy tablet, it began to glow with an intensity that defied the ancient darkness of the hall. The rulers watched, a mix of anticipation and apprehension in their eyes, as the light slowly receded, revealing new images and inscriptions upon the tablet's surface. These were not mere additions, they were clear instructions, a cosmic directive that had chosen this moment to reveal itself. This, another revelation. Uranus remarked with a startled look. As I have always said, the prophecy will not forsake us. The first ruler uttered as he gazed at the tablet, reading the newly formed script with the other two rulers. A mixture of emotions surfaced on their hidden faces, ranging from surprise and relief to finally understanding. What did it say? Uranus inquired, his eyes were consumed with curiosity and anticipation. It gave us the path we were seeking. The second ruler shared, it gave us the solution to our dilemma. What is it? Eris narrowed her eyes. The new instructions detailed the creation of a sealing hall, a structure of unparalleled significance. It's a sanctuary, designed specifically to lock Asnalaya's powers. A sealing hall? Uranus raised an eyebrow in surprise. Isn't that a bit too convenient? He wasn't of the trusting type, and he never placed his faith in the prophecy as much as the three rulers. The fact he couldn't read it might have played a role in it, but still, he always believed that the best way was to brute force the universe's heart no matter how many attempts it took. This is how the tablet operates. The third ruler said, it gives us instructions only after we get lost from the final destination. Is that everything it said? Eris asked. No, but we have no use for the rest of the instructions at the moment. For now, we need to build the sealing hall and prepare Asna for the process. Prepare her? Eris smiled wryly, knowing that there was no way Asna was going to cooperate with them. It was not a permanent solution, but a necessary step, the third ruler interjected, his tone resolute. For the balance of the cosmos, for the protection of the eternal kingdom, and perhaps, for Asna's own good, she must be sealed. It wasn't like Eris didn't understand the implications of Asna not being sealed or eliminated, but still, it left a bad taste in her mouth. She considered her as a child who never asked for any of this. Alas, there was nothing she might do about this. She understood that most of the Unigens would agree to seal Asna off, and if she dared to go against the final verdict, she wouldn't just make enemies with the three rulers, but her peers too. Eris wasn't foolish to disturb her peace for the sake of Asna even if she liked her. As she uttered when interrogating Felix, love and such emotions were nothing but chemicals that could be controlled. In other words, no one might make her sacrifice herself for their sake regardless of the time and experiences between them. The fact that Felix was doing exactly this for Asna's sake was the reason it made him interesting in her eyes. Sigh, what an unfortunate fate. As the illumination from the prophecy tablet dimmed, returning the hall to its usual celestial glow, the rulers set their wood to the task ahead while Eris might only close her eyes in resignation. 1690 The Betrayal. A few years later. In the opulent chamber reserved for the councils within the celestial palace, the three rulers convened a meeting with the Unigens. The gravity of the situation was reflected in the solemnity of their expressions. Besides Ares, the rest of the Unigens had gathered, knowing that the three rulers called them only if there was a situation that affected them too. As the meeting commenced, the first ruler spoke, his voice resonating with the authority of the stars. "We stand at a crossroads," he began, addressing the assembled Unigens. "The prophecy tablet has revealed new directives concerning Asnalaya. The cosmos has decreed two paths, to seal her away or extinguish her light forever. Otherwise, she will awaken and we will have a new master." A murmur of disbelief and concern swept through the room, the weight of such a decision pressing heavily upon every heart and mind present. "Listen, I like the kid, I really do, but..." Poseidon said with a stern tone, "I have no desire of placing my fate in her hands. I rarely agree with this hideous bastard, but he is right." Hephaestus supported coldly, "We are already struggling with the universal chains and are forced to rely on loopholes to have some peace of mind when using our powers. I can't fathom how it will be when the universe possesses an actual consciousness." The more time passed, the more convinced most of the Unigens were about Asna's awakening being related to the universe's lost consciousness. A sentinel being with all known powers in the universe under her command had no reason to exist unless to rule the universe and protect its balance. It was Artemis, the guardian of nature and a voice of compassion, who stepped forward to challenge the starkness of the decree. "How could you think like this? This is Asna we are talking about. She might be acting out at the moment, but that's only normal for her age. She will mature soon enough and if we maintain our guidance and respect, she will return the favor. I am sure of it." She criticized with a heated tone. "Artemis, how could you be sure?" Demeter shook her head, "We spent billions of years with each other, and we barely built a decent trust between us. How do you expect us to trust our freedom and eternal life to another? You know better than this." As unfortunate as it sounded, it was true, the Unigens did not trust each other or the three rulers. This distrust was the reason the Eternal Kingdom was still functional since no one would get betrayed. "All I know is that to disrupt the course of a life so entwined with the fabric of our existence is to meddle with forces beyond our comprehension," she argued, her voice imbued with a conviction. "If she is truly the consciousness of the universe, whether we eliminate her or seal her, there would come a day, where she will awaken. What do you think will happen to us then?" When this point was brought up, most of the Unigens went silent with deep frowns. They knew that destiny could not be stopped, it could be delayed, but not stopped. In the case of Asna, a day would come when she would awaken and reside over her duties as that was her destiny. "You know she is right." Apollo supported with a serious tone, unusual behavior from him. "I spent the most time with Asna and watched how her personality shape up. I can tell you right now, that she will hold a grudge against us that lasts for eons if we dare to betray her. On the other side of the coin, our trust and support will be rewarded. I am certain that the moment she awakens, the first thing she will do is help us seek a way to reach the other side." Before the Unigens could get swayed, the third ruler shared with a composed voice, "You don't have to worry about that. The prophecy has given us a new path to freedom through using her core. We have everything planned out." Knowing that the three rulers cared the most about the other side made the Unigens understand that they had nothing to gain from lying to them. If Asna were to awaken after being sealed, they would be the first to pay the price. "I think enough has been said." Uranus said calmly, "Let's start the vote. All in favor, raise your hands. Before Artemis or Apollo could add anything else, the Unigens began to lift their hands one by one until only Apollo, Artemis, and Eris remained. You guys will come to regret this in the future. Artemis could only shake her head in disappointment. Sigh, don't bother calling me when you give her the news, I need a drink. Apollo lowered his head and walked out with a disgusted expression. As for Eris, she abstained from voting, not that it mattered with the crushing majority against Asna. As the meeting adjourned, the fate of Asna was decided to a life of imprisonment. Unbeknownst to this, Asna was seen slumbering under the shade of a massive tree, enjoying the soft breeze hitting her cheeks. If only she knew this would be the last day she would enjoy the breeze of fresh air, she would have appreciated a tad bit more. Some time later, the three rulers called for Asna's attendance in the celestial palace, waking her up from her peaceful slumber. So annoying. What do they want now? Asna complained with a muddled look. But, she knew better not to leave them waiting for long, thus, she swiftly arrived at the celestial palace and met with the three rulers, Uranus, Eris, and most of the Unigens. What is everyone doing here? Were you having a party without me? Asna raised an eyebrow in surprise, taken back by the sight. Neither the rulers nor the Unigens entertained her joke, making Asna read the room's atmosphere to be quite serious. Did someone die? Where is Uncle Apollo? Asna asked with a hint of concern, did he have another psychiatric episode? No one answered her. Asnalaya, come here. The first ruler ordered. Asna walked with a mix of concern and curiosity in her steps, her golden star-like eyes, reflecting a universe of possibilities, scanned the surroundings, unaware of the full gravity of the moment. After she stood in front of them, the first ruler waved his hand, and Asna was transported alone inside the ceiling hall, which was built within a pocket dimension. Before Asna could react to the sudden shift in the environment, the three rulers entered the ceiling hall with the rest of the Unigens. What is this place? Asna asked curiously as she gazed at the stone statues, their inscribed chains, and the platform suspended in the middle. Is this another method to break the universe's heart? What do you need me to do now? Hearing her innocent curious voice caused most Unigens to feel a prickle of guilt in their hearts, while Artemis straightaway shut off her emotions manually, knowing that her soft heart would not be able to take any of this. Asna, this will be your sanctuary for a short while until we figure things out. The first ruler remarked with a stoic voice. Hey? Sanctuary? What do you mean? Asna was left startled. We can't have you running around anymore, as your existence will keep drying out the celestial energy pool. The second ruler said softly, seemingly trying to appease her, this is for the sake of the kingdom's longevity, you understand, right? We promise it will be just for a short period. The third ruler spoke in a monotone voice that even a 5-year-old would find hard to believe. As they were speaking, they were getting closer and closer to Asna while she was stepping away from them with a hint of fear in her eyes. You are scaring me, please stop, I don't want this. She said, her lips trembling. Alas, the three rulers ignored her pleas and started chanting the ceiling incantation, their voices merging into a harmonious chant that echoed the inscriptions on the walls. The ancient language of the cosmos filled the hall, weaving a complex tapestry of energy around Asna. Whoosh! Whoosh! The inscriptions on the walls and chains began to glow brighter, their light converging on Asna, enveloping her in a cocoon of celestial power. Please stop! Why are you doing this to me? Asna cried out loud as she looked at Eris and the rest of the Unigens with tears flooding her eyes. Help me! Auntie Eris! Uncles! Stop them! Eris and the rest could only give her bitter looks and remain silent observers, knowing that this was the best possible outcome for both parties. My apologies, little one, I possess failed you, we have failed you. Artemis murmured in Asna's mind. Whoosh! The air vibrated with the force of the chant, the words dictating the ceiling of her powers, stripping away the raw, unbridled energy that coursed through her being. Asna, caught in the eye of the storm, felt the weight of the universe pressing down on her, the essence of her powers being drawn out and contained within the runes that now glowed even brighter around her. A look of pure fear flashed across her face as she realized that the purpose of the hall became to seal her powers away. I am sorry. Please. I will behave from now on, I will do whatever you inform me to. Please don't put me away. Asna begged and begged, crystal tears flowing down her reddened cheeks, but such pure emotions were wasted on that wall of ice-cold beings. None of them took a step forward, none of them said anything. They just watched with deadpan looks as Asna, their spoiled princess, was imprisoned for something she had no control over. Being locked away due to their insecurity and inability to trust anyone but themselves. Whoosh! The chant reached its crescendo, the hall thundering with the sound of cosmic order being enforced. The warrior statues came to life and the chains kept clinging noisily as they kept wrapping themselves around Asna. Appreciate she became some sort of a first-degree criminal. But, she became just a child. Sob, sob, I am sorry, it hurts, sob, please. As the glowing inscriptions dimmed and the hall returned to its peaceful state, only Asna's heart-wrenching weeping became echoing in everyone's ears. Her voice became the only thing left that resembled her as the moment she was sealed, her form turned into a small white flame hovering above the white platform. Sob, sob, it's dark, sob. I am scared. That became the last sentence the Unigens and the three rulers heard as they turned their backs on Asna and left the sealing hall once and for all. 1691 The imprisonment grounds. We have gone and done it now, don't involve me in this ever again. Artemis rubbed her eyelids as she walked away with a somewhat pale face like she had lost millions of years from her longevity. Even Apollo was seen sipping alcohol with a hint of depression in his eyes while lying on top of his fluffy cushion, deep in his thoughts. It seemed like Lilith's information wasn't perfect about what had gone through in the meeting. After all, she was still banished during this period. She believed that Apollo hadn't bothered to show up and defend Asna. While in reality, he had given it his best, but alas, he could not go against everyone. What now? Zeus asked calmly after Artemis left. She will be exiled from the kingdom and imprisoned in the sealing grounds next to Cronus. The first ruler said, besides this, we will keep our hands off completely no matter what happens. This involves you too. The third said with a hint of warning in his voice. Why send her there? Isn't it better to keep her around? Aeolus raised an eyebrow. Isn't the sealing hall capable of locking away her absorption powers? That's what the prophecy instructed us and all we could do is oblige. The first ruler replied, the truth will come out when the time comes as always. So, that's it. Poseidon raised an eyebrow, we just continue living our lives as normal. Yes. Sounds good to me. Hephaestus didn't bother them with too many questions and took off immediately, returning to his domain. With Asna gone and the atmosphere becoming somewhat tense again after this situation, he understood that it wouldn't be long before the conflict started arising between them. Poseidon had the same thought process as his rival and swiftly chased after him, not trusting him in the slightest to keep his hands to himself. I hope we made the right decision. Athena said with narrowed eyes, otherwise, we will pay a grave price in the future. The rest of the Unigen left the place with this final ominous statement rooted deeply in the back of their minds, as they knew that messing with the universe's plan and balance seldom worked out in anyone's favor. With lesser celestial Unigens gone, the first ruler brought out a golden sun disk earring from nowhere and handed it to Uranus. You know what to do. Leave it to me. Uranus caught the earrings and sliced a pitch-black portal with his divine bronze scythe, then, he vanished through it. When he reappeared again, he was in front of the Golden Kingdom's gate. With a deliberate gesture, he summoned two massive arms, forged from colorful radiation energy and imbued with the raw force of gravitational power. These arms, a manifestation of his dominion over the cosmos, crackled with a potent aura, each movement rippling through space itself. As Uranus channeled the resplendent divinity, the arms glowed with an intensity that lit up the surrounding wasteland. Enhanced 100-fold by the divinity, the arms reached out, their massive hands grasping the ancient gates that had remained unyielded for eons. Break open! With a force that echoed across the universe, Uranus pushed with everything in his powers. The gates began to creak and groan under the unprecedented power. The gravitational forces and the empowered radiation energy arms worked in unison, slowly prying open the gates that functioned as the boundary to the eternal kingdom. The sight was awe-inspiring, a testament to Uranus's unparalleled strength. If it was any other Unigen, they would have wasted all of their stored resplendent energy and still inquired for more. As the gates swung open, revealing the boundless realms that lay beyond, Uranus was no longer to be seen. Ka-thum! The golden gate swiftly closed shut and the colorful arms faded away, returning the wasteland to its peaceful state. Amidst the silence of a desolate galaxy, on a planet devoid of life, stood the imprisonment grounds, a location shrouded in the gravitas of celestial judgments past. There were ruins everywhere of past civilizations and untold stories, yet now, this place was turned into an imprisonment facility under the eternal watch of the three rulers. Into this somber landscape, Uranus made his entrance, his form casting shadows that seemed to absorb the faint light that dared to trespass upon this forsaken place. As Uranus stepped onto the barren surface, the air vibrated with the sudden emergence of Cronus' deep, resonant voice, a sound that seemed to arrive from the very depths of the universe itself. "What are you doing here? I don't think it's the time for me to be released," Cronus intoned, his tone a mixture of curiosity and casualness, like the notion of being imprisoned was something he was used to and had no issues with it. Uranus, unfazed by the voice that echoed around him, responded with a calm that belied the gravity of his actions. "I'm not here for your release, Cronus. You will have a new cellmate, and I expect you to keep an eye on her." "A new cellmate? Interesting." With a motion that seemed to bend the very fabric of space around him, Uranus produced a pair of golden earrings. He tossed them onto the ground with deliberate intent, and upon contact, they unfurled into a portal revealing the vast sealing hall within. When Cronus saw the appearance of the sealing hall and the white flame hovering in the middle, he opened his massive eye from the depth of the planet. His slit widened a little as he inquired, "What a fascinating seal, are you trying to contain a ruler?" "Stop bothering me," Uranus stated with an irritated tone. "If you want to know, use your laws." "Where is the fun in that?" Cronus chuckled. "Tisk, you are truly the worst possible candidate to control the laws of space and time." Uranus clicked his tongue in criticism. "If I had your laws, no one would catch me asking a question ever again. That's why I am the guardian of space/time and you aren't." Cronus smiled inwardly. "You wouldn't have survived a day." "Whatever." Uranus merely scoffed at his take and left the location through the same portal. Rushing back to the Eternal Kingdom, he felt like an emperor visiting a dirty village and ruining his shoes by stepping on their muddy grounds. After he left, silence returned to the area. Asna neither heard them nor realized that she was no longer in the Eternal Kingdom. It was understandable, as all she could see and hear was absolute nothingness, like she was locked inside her own subconscious space. At the moment, she could be seen floating in this sea of nothingness with her arms holding her knees tightly, resembling a wounded deer awaiting her final hour. A faint sniffles were heard here and there with the occasional questioning murmurs. "What did I do to deserve this? How could they abandon me? I did nothing, nothing wrong." "Little one, it appears like you have made the mistake of trusting a Unigen and a ruler." Suddenly, Cronus' unfamiliar voice resounded in her mind, causing her to flinch in fear. "Who are you?" With bloodshot eyes, Asna yelled while frantically scanning her surroundings, her racing heartbeat giving away her fear. "My identity doesn't matter in the grand scheme of life." Cronus responded calmly, "What matters is the moments we share in life and Cherie." "You must be Cronus!" Asna exclaimed. "UNC Apollo told me you are an idiot who is constantly attempting to sound wise." Cronus was left speechless, feeling insulted but at the same time having no retort against it. He indeed had an annoying habit of giving complicated answers to sound wiser when a simpler answer would suffice. Wait, if you are talking to me, it means I am no longer in the eternal kingdom. No, it's worse, it means I have been sent to the imprisonment grounds. Asna stuttered at the horrible realization, feeling her heart shatter to pieces at the thought of being here. Even after everything that happened, she still held a tiny bit of hope that the three rulers would keep her around and free her after some time as they promised. But now? She knew once and for all that she was exiled forever, turning her into the first exiled celestial. 1692 The imprisonment grounds. 2. Child, you don't have to feel so bad. Cronus comforted, you will soon realize that spending your time here is much better than being next to those snakes. They only care about their benefit and empty sense of freedom. Stop talking rubbish. How is this better? Asna started weeping again. I can't see or do anything, am I going to spend eternity like this? Oh, I guess the seal is still too strong to let some of your senses out. Cronus realized. What does that mean? Just give it some time and the seal will start weakening gradually. Cronus explained, after you spot signs of weakness, loopholes will emerge and you can take advantage of them to sneak out your senses or even a bit of your telepathic control. Really? How long does it take? Asna's spirit seemed to have uplifted slightly. It depends on the seal. Cronus shared as he analyzed her seal, based on your seal's toughness and complexity, it should take tens of thousands of years before initial signs start appearing. How am I supposed to wait that long without losing my mind? Asna's spirit was thrown down the gutter again. One word. Cronus chuckled, sleep. Sleep will be your best friend for as long as you remain here. Asna didn't know how to respond to that. So, why are you here? Cronus asked with a curious tone. How can you ask me that? Asna frowned, aren't you the Unigen of space and time? You should be all-knowing. In fact, why are you even imprisoned here with me? A being with your kind of power should never get caught, like ever. In her eyes, how could someone who could see the future ever get imprisoned? It was simply impossible as he could easily foresee any action against him millions of years ago. See the future, hey? Cronus showed a forceful smile, a smile that seemed to carry eons of stories within it. Child, all you have to know is that I stopped controlling my fate and started flowing with the breeze of destiny wherever it takes me. Cronus said wisely. Asna's eyelids twitched in irritation. How does that answer my question? You will understand in the future. Cronus switched the subject. Now, share with me your story, it's been quite lonely being here by myself. Asna went silent for a moment, feeling her heart getting shredded to pieces when she started to think of how to begin her story. In the end, she narrated what happened to her with great difficulty, knowing that he would be the only person near her for a very long time. After she was done, Cronus was seen blinking his massive darkened eye. Well, I can't really blame them, to be honest. Your existence is truly their bane and allowing you to awaken will be a foolish move. Before Asna could react to his response, Cronus soon shook his head. However, this doesn't excuse their actions. Your existence is the natural way of order and sealing you away is the same as rebelling against the universe. I don't care about any of this and I never did. Asna said with a low voice, all I wanted was to live my life in peace, unbothered, unaffected, and unattached to anything. I even despised my awakening as it would give me forceful new duties and I never liked that. Little one, freedom is a privilege that only one person can enjoy. Cronus said with a deep voice, unfortunately, that person is neither you nor me. What do you mean? I think it's time we get some rest. Cronus closed his eye slowly as he said one last time, we will continue when your seal weakens and we can speak face to face. Wait. Please don't go. Cronus. Asna started yelling with a bit of agitation, are you still there? Please don't leave me alone. When no one responded to her and all she could hear was the sound of her heartbeats, Asna understood that either she could join him in a long slumber or stay awake in this infinite darkness. The choice wasn't hard to make. Back to the present. Asna was suddenly roused from reminiscing of her childhood memories, a period she desired it never happened. Whoosh! Whoosh! What woke her up was the sight of the eternal black flames in the capital being on the verge of getting exterminated by the golden flames. The black flames used to occupy almost the entire surface of the city, but now, there were barely a couple hundred kilometers covered and this surface area kept getting smaller and smaller. Felix, where are you? Asna thought with a hint of worry inscribed across her face. She knew that Felix must have used the black flames as a diversion to save her while the three rulers and the rest believed he did this for the sake of stealing Zeus and Poseidon's cores. After all, he had kidnapped them instead of using the chance created for the sake of saving Asna. At this moment, the flames were dying out, and the created opportunity was dying with them. Unbeknownst to her, all of this was still part of Felix's plan. Boredom. Whoosh. Food. In the heart of the dream realm, Felix engaged in a desperate melee with Zeus and Poseidon. Each moment was a dance with death, their forms blurring into a vortex of primal combat. Pararagon. Let go of our cores. Zeus bellowed with a frenzied look as he unleashed barrages of lightning strikes, each one seeking Felix with a predator's precision. His divine weapon crackled with the wrath of storms, arcs of electricity dancing eagerly on its surface, waiting to discharge with fatal intent. Meanwhile, Poseidon attacked with the ferocity of the ocean's depths, waves of water and razor-sharp ice shards spiraled towards Felix, an unending torrent designed to erode his defenses and pierce through his resolve. The ground beneath them became a maelstrom of water, and ice clashing with Felix. Useless attempts, just lower your weapons and accept your fate, your cores are now mine. Alas, Felix countered all of their strikes with ease as his strength had already reached the peak of Unigen's unlike the other two. Without divinities involved, the battle was like a simple showdown of who got the bigger muscle. I refuse to accept such fate. Your damnation is soon arriving. Poseidon roared as he tried to slice Felix apart with a concentrated jet of iced water that could be considered the sharpest weapon in the universe. Maybe, but not under your hands, Felix responded calmly as he used the reflective mirror symbol to change the path of the water blade, aiming it at Zeus. Zeus, quick with his hands, used a thunder-based strike to shatter the water blade molecules. While this was going on, Asna's core worked tirelessly, siphoning the essence of Zeus and Poseidon, making their desperation continue to mount. No. No. Zeus. Put more effort into it. What the f*** you think I am doing? His symbolic techniques can counter most of our law-based attacks while the gap in strength between us makes it impossible to land a single attack. Zeus yelled back with a hint of despair, a feeling he never felt in his life before. Not in his wildest dreams did he expect his ending to arrive in the same manner as Hephaestus, even when they had already received a wake-up call. No one could fault them, as not even the three rulers believed that Felix would be daring enough to make a move against them so soon. There were risks, and there was what Felix had just done. Unfortunately, as the cores of Zeus and Poseidon dimmed, their attacks wavered, the once overwhelming force behind their blows diminishing. When Zeus and Poseidon felt their trusted strength slipping away, recognized that unless they went to extraordinary measures and truly acted in pure desperation, their ending would be determined here and now. You think what I am thinking? We are left with no other choice, either we do that or we will be completed once and for all. 1693 The Last Dance. With a single traded glance between them, their expressions, once marred by desperation and fear, hardened into a resolve as strong as the foundations of the universe. In that instant, they acknowledged a truth they had hoped to avoid: there was no escape, no turning back from the precipice upon which they stood. The end, if it were to come, would be on their terms. With a solemn nod to each other, Zeus and Poseidon made their decision. It was a choice born not of cowardice, but of a last stand against an inescapable fate. Their divine essence, the very core of their being, began to glow with a foreboding light. It was the light of sacrifice, a brilliance that heralded the end of an era. We won't allow you to freely take our cores and replace us. Paragon, you have forced our hands. Zeus and Poseidon declared, their voices echoing through the dream realm with a gravity that belied the impending catastrophe. And then, with the divine command that resonated with the power of their untold millennia, Zeus and Poseidon initiated the self-destruction of both their souls and cores. If even mortals were able to self-implode their souls, the Unigens could do more than that, as their self-implosion command could impact even their cores. Not a single Unigen in the history of the universe had done this before, as there wasn't anything or anyone to force them into this deadly end. After all, gods could be reborn with new cores later on in the future in case of their death. Why go through the trouble of self-implosion? But in this case, all the gods realized that if they got caught by Felix and he gunned for their cores, self-implosion was the only way out. If Hephaestus knew that Felix would be able to ascend again through his core and erase his existence forever, he would have done the same, since it would ensure his rebirth with a new core. Alas, there was no fixing to the past, and it seems that even the future wasn't in their hands. You are truly insulting my intelligence if you assumed I didn't predict this final desperate act. Felix commentated with an unfazed look. The moment he finished speaking, the cataclysmic energy of their cores surging towards its devastating crescendo, was abruptly quelled, extinguished as if it never was. You don't tell me. The two Unigens' expressions, initially marked by the solemn acceptance of self-sacrifice, morphed into disbelief and shock. They watched, helpless, in despair, as the very essence of their divine cores was stifled, the expected implosion rendered impossible by an unseen force. Felix, amidst the tension, wore a faint cold smile, the calm amidst the storm. I've used a wish here, he revealed, his voice a calm whisper that carried the weight of absolute authority within the dream realm. Any core-related self-implosions are banned. Why do you think I didn't waste any wishes during our battle? If Felix desired, he could have ended this battle in a heartbeat by simply using a wish to remove the laws of those two. This would be enough to cripple them once and for all. But, he knew that wishing for this, plus the removal of divinities, would leave him broke. If he couldn't afford to wish to stop the act of core self-implosion in his dream world, all of his efforts would have gone to waste. Ha ha ha, you brat, you brought us here for this. You didn't do the same for our souls, is it? Ha ha, ha, you are truly the worst possible version of the paragon of sins to grace the universe. The two gods could only watch with defeated looks as their souls, untethered from the safety of their cores, continued their catastrophic contraction, teetering on the brink of annihilation. Felix's smile expanded ever so slightly, his eyes alight with a cold, strategic fire. Of course, I didn't extend that prohibition to your souls. Your soul explosion, after all, is necessary for what comes next. The realization dawned upon Zeus and Poseidon in that suspended moment, trapped within Felix's dominion, their ultimate escape was barred, and their final defiance turned against them. Their cores were rendered inert, their souls remained on a precipice, their imminent dissolution now upon in Felix's grand design. As their souls hovered on the edge of oblivion, the atmosphere heavy with the stress of their impending demise, the reality of their situation settled in. We have lost. Is this the sensation of death? Poseidon murmured to himself as he placed his palm on his panicked heart, feeling like it would explode any moment. As much as both of them felt genuine fear engulfing their hearts, they didn't want to make their last moments disgraceful. If they had no control over the battlefield or the time of their death, the least they could do was control how they could go. Meanwhile, Felix couldn't care less about their reaction and unveiled a new symbolic technique of profound power and dread, the all-devouring void puppet. With a wave of his hand, a sigil materialized in the air, crackling with dark energy, from which appeared a gigantic pitch-black humanoid puppet. This eerie figure, towering and sinister, was marked by a grotesquely massive mouth on its stomach, while its eyes glinted ominously with a mix of green and orange light. From a first glance, it was clear this puppet was created out of greed, gluttony, and void laws. As the stress reached its zenith, with Zeus and Poseidon's souls teetering on the edge of catastrophic self-destruction, the puppet acted. It opened its gaping maw wide, an abyss within an abyss, and a palpable force emanated from it, a hunger insatiable and indiscriminate. The devouring puppet, I see, you are truly one sinister individual. Sinister or not, you will soon be joining us, as nothing will save you from the three rulers' wrath. Mark my words, Paragon, mark my words. As both gods released their last remarks, their souls collapsed at last, and what followed should have been a catastrophic explosion, powerful enough to erase 100 times the size of the dream realm. However, the impending explosion, a maelstrom of soul energy about to burst forth in destructive defiance, found itself drawn inexorably toward the puppet's dark void. The tenants, with a mix of awe and horror etched into their faces, watched as the very essence of the explosion, the culmination of two godly souls' final stand, was devoured whole. Not a trace of the energy wave, no whisper of its might, managed to escape the puppet's insatiable hunger. In what seemed less than a heartbeat, the catastrophic force was gone, consumed entirely, leaving behind nothing but the eerie stillness of the aftermath. Burp. With a loud burp, the puppet proceeded to close its mouth and gave a slight head bow to Felix, then, it receded into the sigil from whence it came, disappearing without a trace as if it had never been. As for the two Unigens, the only thing left behind were their cores and weapons. After losing their owners, the cores halted their struggle immediately, allowing Asna's core to devour them without an ounce of resistance. With that, two new stars were placed on the skies of Asna's core. One was made completely out of electricity and the other out of foggy water. Is it done? It's done, right? Right? Right. Candace murmured again and again while her voice kept getting louder, like she couldn't imagine the notion of Felix defeating two gods and harvesting their cores at the same time. It's not the time for celebration. Felix didn't even crack a tiny smile. He looked into the distance and uttered with a serious cold look, the job isn't done yet. 1694 The Last Dance. 2. Felix understood that absorbing those two cores was nothing but a mere bonus. His goal was always to absorb their soul's explosion, as he was certain that they would go for it even if they didn't take their cores with them. That's because he had prepared a tight plan to imprison their souls here forever, leaving them with the sole option of self-implosion if they desired to leave his domain. With their cores being safe in their territories, Zeus and Poseidon wouldn't hesitate to go for it. It's time for the last dance, the last act, and if I want to bring everything together, I can't make a single mistake, Felix uttered as he took a deep breath. We believe in you. Thor encouraged with a solemn tone, recognizing the true difficulty of Felix's final act. Felix, you have gone through this so many times now. Lady Sphinx said as gazed at him with a faint smile, the circumstances might change, but you always emerge victorious. Makes us proud and bring us home, Hormungandr added with a head nod, a gesture filled with an untold amount of trust and confidence. Those three were his masters and they spent the most time with him apart from Asna. They watched him evolve from the very beginning and now he was on the verge of pulling the trigger against the three rulers. Thus, their encouraging words meant the world to Felix and made him realize that he had people observing his back now and forever. Let's bring her home. With narrowed eyes and focus, Felix ordered, you may begin. In the vast emptiness of outer space, high above the gleaming expanse of the eternal kingdom, a spectacle of cosmic proportions unfolds. 4 clones of Felix were seen spread in different areas above the kingdom. This is it, boys, this is the hill we die on. One of Felix's clones extended both of his hands and shouted into the heavens, enlarge. Their bodies, already formidable in their power, swelled in size, expanding exponentially until they dwarfed the celestial bodies that pepper the universe, standing as colossal titans against the backdrop of the cosmos. With movements that carried the weight and grace of celestial entities, these titanic clones extended their hands toward the void. From their outstretched palms, a miraculous phenomenon occurs. Thousands of prepared stars, each one supermassive and incandescent, burst forth into existence. These newborn stars, forged from the unyielding will and power of Felix's clones, shimmered with a radiant light, casting their luminous glow across the endless expanse of space. As these stars found their places in the fabric of the cosmos, they illuminated the darkness, creating a breathtaking tableau that spoke of creation itself. "Little Paragon, it seems like you aren't done yet," Eris murmured as she gazed at the pretty array of stars gleaming in the starry sky of the kingdom. "Felix, please be safe." Asna held her hands together as she prayed under her breath, feeling it in her bones that Felix was coming soon. As more heads kept rising to stare at the celestial-sized clones of Felix and his array of stars behind him, all of them reached one conclusion. "What is he up to now?" Athena frowned. "Is he planning to pour down on us with stars?" The moment she thought this, the clones of Felix commanded the newly birthed stars to cascade down toward the eternal kingdom, setting the heavens ablaze with a meteor shower of unparalleled beauty and terror. Initially, these falling stars appeared as mere streaks of light across the night sky, a mesmerizing spectacle that drew the eyes of the kingdom's citizens upwards in wonder and awe. However, as the celestial bodies drew nearer, their true magnitude became horrifyingly clear. What once were distant, twinkling lights now swelled into colossal orbs of fire, their surfaces roiling with nuclear fury, each one a miniature sun descending upon the kingdom. The sky, once a tapestry of the cosmos' infinite expanse, was now obscured, replaced by the overwhelming presence of these stars. Their light was so intense that night turned into day, casting harsh, shadowless illumination across the land. Panic gripped the heart of the kingdom as the once beautiful meteor shower transformed into a portent of doom. The citizens, who had initially marveled at the display, now scramble for shelter, their awe replaced by a deep, existential dread. The entire kingdom was cast into turmoil, with whispers of the end times spreading as quickly as the stars' ominous light. Yet, neither the three rulers nor the Unigens seemed afraid. They gazed at the stars akin to a meteor of pebbles about to strike them. "Doesn't he know that the eternal kingdom's divine protective barrier can block even 10 moments the power of those stars?" Demeter remarked with an unbothered look. This was the reason the three rulers didn't bother to make a move and waste more of their celestial energy, knowing that the protective barrier would keep the explosions on the other side. The protective barrier had stood against the moments of the universe without a single crack on it. Unless the Unigens combined their forces, it was near impossible to destroy it. Whoosh! Abruptly, under the impending doom of a starlit meteor shower, a solitary clone of Felix teleported right in front of the invisible divine protective barrier. With his arms crossed above his chest, he stood defiantly, casting a stark shadow against the celestial onslaught. Despite the vastness of the threat above, all eyes were inexplicably drawn to this lone figure, whose determination seemed to pierce the heavens themselves. "Felix!" Asna called out loud, hoping for her voice to reach him as he was standing above the capital's sky. He seemed unafraid of being so close to the three rulers even after he witnessed the horrible fate of the other clone. Felix's clone was indeed not scared as he came here with the will to die. With a calmness that belied the chaos unfolding, the clone called forth the all-devouring puppet. The gigantic humanoid pitch-black puppet manifested behind Felix. Its lanky arms and legs made it resemble a demonic creepy creature. What is he planning to do with that? Before the three rulers, Eris, Athena, Asna, and the rest of the watchers could figure out Felix's motives for bringing this puppet out, he commanded with a menacing tone, "Release." In response, the puppet's gargantuan maw yawned wide open and started the preparation to unleash an explosion of unfathomable power, the very essence of the two Unigens' obliterated souls. It might not seem like much due to how the puppet had easily absorbed it, but that would be a false misconception. The force stored within its stomach was capable of annihilating thousands of galaxies without an ounce of struggle. The instant the three rulers sensed the hidden threat that was about to be released on their glorious land, their stoic expressions were finally cracked a little. This kind of pure spiritual force, it can't be manifested unless out of a Unigen's soul. Athena's pupils expanded in disbelief. Zeus and Poseidon. Demeter murmured. I can't trust it, he has finished them off and absorbed their soul's explosion. Aeolus felt a chill crawl down his spine. Even the Unigens reached the same conclusion and made them realize that what they were witnessing was the final roar, the final scream of their peers. 1695 The Last Dance. 3. They had no clue that their peers were killed since the dream realm was under Felix's commands and no one could peer through it. The universe didn't announce their death since it had already occurred with Hephaestus and they decided to blow themselves up. The universe would never announce such a thing. Child, you have been pushing your luck a bit too much. Meanwhile, the first ruler, sensing the impending catastrophe, acted with divine swiftness, conjuring a majestic golden sword from the ether, a weapon of pure divinity aimed to intercept and neutralize the cataclysmic explosion by erasing the puppet. Yet, in a moment of sacrificial defiance, Felix positioned himself directly in the sword's path. Veil of Pride. Indestructible Will. Concentrated Void Shield. Sun's Protection. Celestial Black/White Flames. Felix summoned every last ounce of his power to erect a series of formidable shields around him, each one a testament to his determination to protect what he held dear. The divine golden sword, a weapon that radiates with the fury of the cosmos itself, descended upon him with a might that seemed to bend reality itself. Ka'athud. With a deafening roar, the barriers erected by Felix begin to falter under the sword's relentless assault. One by one, they shattered into nothingness, their fragments disappearing into the ether as if they were never there. The sword, unyielding and precise, continued its forceful penetration, now mere inches from Felix's outstretched hands. Arg! A scream tore through the silence, a raw expression of pain and defiance, as the tip of the sword made contact with Felix's flesh. It pierced through his hands with a force that seemed to echo through the ages, then continued its merciless path until it found his chest. PSSSS. Blood blossomed forth, painting a stark contrast against the ethereal glow of the sword, dripping slowly from the corners of Felix's mouth. The golden sword might not seem like a lot, but it was a concentrated divine attack that could be said to be much more powerful than that divine palm. Even with everything in Felix's arsenal used to block it, it still failed short, demonstrating the chasm between them in strength. Yet, amidst the agony and the encroaching shadow of death, a faint grin played across Felix's lips. With a voice strained by pain but undimmed in its resolve, and gentle eyes affixed on the frozen expression of his beloved, he whispered, "Let the fireworks begin." As the sword completed its devastating journey, Felix's words hung in the air for a nanosecond before the promised chaos arose. An intense beam of light, brighter than a million suns, erupts from its gaping maw, a torrent of raw, unbridled energy that raced toward Felix with the inevitability of fate itself. The first to be consumed by this wrathful storm was him. His figure, ensnared by the divine sword and bathed in his own blood, became the epicenter of the explosion. Yet, that gentle grin never left his face, a smile that seemed to calm his beloved, a smile that seemed to tell her, that he would not forsake her even if he took the brunt of a million Sunday. In a moment that seemed to stretch into eternity, he was erased from existence, the clone's sacrifice marking the beginning of the end. As the blast continued its relentless expansion, it met the Eternal Kingdom's divine barrier, a construct that had stood unchallenged for eons. The barrier trembled under the onslaught of the explosion, cracks forming across its surface like spider webs sprawling across a fragile window. Boom! With a sound that reverberated through the cosmos and the hearts of the watchers, the barrier shattered, its fragments dispersing into the void. The three rulers and the Unigens watched in utter silence as the blast freed from its confines, engulfing the meteor shower of stars, each star a giant awaiting its final performance. As they were consumed, they ignited in supernovas, a cascade of celestial fireworks that illuminated the universe with their dying light. The spectacle was both beautiful and horrifying, a dance of destruction that painted the sky with the colors of annihilation. Everyone knew that if this cascade of destruction were to reach the kingdom Undisrupt, its glory, its history, its very essence, was going to be erased in a spectacle of light and shadow, leaving behind nothing but the echoes of a universe forever changed. Thus, the three rulers didn't hesitate to take matters seriously at last, not caring any more about the amount of celestial energy needed to stop this. With a tint of lividness in their eyes, the three rulers extended their arms, desiring to confront the apocalyptic onslaught unleashed by Felix's final act. In a desperate bid to salvage what remained of their celestial domain, they channeled their collective might into the creation of a new barrier, a bastion of hope amidst the encroaching chaos. This barrier, unlike any before, was wrought from the essence of celestial energy, woven with the very fabric of creation itself. It stretched across the skies, enveloping the most vital regions of the eternal kingdom in a protective embrace, while the outer reaches, now deemed expendable, were left to the mercy of the inferno. The spectacle of the exploding stars, now a destructive symphony that threatened to erase all it touched, crashes against the newly erected shield. Boom! Boom! Each impact, a burst of blinding light and unfathomable force, tested the resilience of this last defense. The barrier trembled under the relentless assault, its luminescence flickering with the strain of containing such power. The three rulers channeled their essence into the barrier, feeling angrier and angrier the more celestial energy was burnt into nothingness. Their relaxed attitude and disregard for Felix's threats had finally bitten them in the ass. Their faces, edged with determination and the gravity of their task, reflected the monumental effort required to maintain this shield. This compelled the rulers to devote all their focus and energy to prevent the barrier from crumbling. "Crazy, he is crazy," Aeolus commentated with a dumbfounded expression as he watched the three rulers being forced to put in an actual effort. A sight many Unigens had seen only once, and coincidentally, it was related to Lilith, the previous paragon of sins. "He has gone and done it now, he has done it now," Artemis repeated, knowing that the three rulers would not stop until they either locked Felix away or have his head under their feet. That's what happened to every Unigen that stood against them and their ultimate commands. "Is this true love?" Eris murmured as she lifted her head and gazed at Asna with a hint of envy in her eyes. She felt like her life would be complete if there was someone out there who was willing to go against the universal authority for her sake. Alas, all she could was sigh deeply and get rid of such thoughts. "I am not deserving of such pure love." She smiled bitterly while lowering her gaze, understanding deep down that such love eluded her. For she knew that no one would give her their heart unless she gave them hers first. To go that far would mean putting her absolute trust in the other person. Unigens were simply not engineered for such action. Otherwise, they wouldn't have treated little Asna so poorly. While everyone was deep in their thoughts at this catastrophic event, the only person enjoying this performance was Asna. A single droplet rolled down her cheek as she gazed at her lover's final act, knowing now more than ever, that he was the sole person to love her wholeheartedly and unconditionally. Thus, she also placed her blind trust in him without a single question in her mind or heart. "We live together or we die together." While the three rulers were distracted by holding the cosmic inferno in addition to dealing with the eternal black flames, Asna reached out to Tiara on top of her head. Then, with a look of pure love and madness, she shattered it into fragments, drawing the attention of the three rulers immediately to her. "You brat! What have you done?" The three rulers' expressions turned for the worse slightly as they didn't fear Asna being able to escape, but the backlash that would hit her after breaking their seal in this manner. Because she was already in a weakened state due to not having her core connected to her for a long time, the backlash came in instantly with the force of a galloping herd of basins. This backlash was not physical but one that assailed her soul, manifesting as a tumultuous blast within the confines of her spiritual existence. The force of the detonation sent fissures running through her soul barrier, each crack a testament to the severity of her action, and the price of defying the constraints placed upon her. As the turmoil within escalated, Asna's physical form mirrored the torment of her soul. Blood, a stark crimson against her pale skin, began to seep from her eyes, ears, nose, and mouth, each of the 7 orifices becoming conduits for the visible manifestation of her internal suffering. The intensity of the backlash engulfed her, stripping away her consciousness slowly and leaving her in a state of vulnerable collapse. Cough. Cough. Her body, now limp and marred by the traces of blood, leaned against the balcony's rail as she kept coughing large amounts of blood. With a hazy gaze filled with despise directed at the three rulers, she uttered with great difficulty, "You wouldn't understand, even if I told you." 1696 The Last Dance. 4. Now. Amid the chaos of celestial energy and apocalyptic destruction threatening to engulf the eternal kingdom, the real Felix seized a moment of vulnerability and made his move at last. With the rulers momentarily distracted by Asna's drastic action of breaking her sealing tiara and the ensuing spread of eternal black flames, he conjured a portal of swirling darkness right in front of the balcony, connecting the dream realm with the kingdom. From this void, a sinuous tentacle emerged, aiming to trap Asna and whisk her away to safety, exploiting the ruler's preoccupation. Everything he had done and prepared was for this tiny moment of vulnerability, where he was certain that the ruler's senses would be too outstretched with all the chaos he brought across their land. Whoosh! As the tentacle coiled around Asna's waist, preparing to retract with its precious cargo into the protective embrace of the dream realm, time seemed to freeze. The first ruler, amidst the pandemonium of collapsing defenses and the imminent threat of a kingdom-erasing explosion, turned his focus to Felix's daring rescue attempt. With a voice that cut through the turmoil, chilling in its authority and devoid of emotion, he spoke a single word that halted all actions and silenced the chaos momentarily. Enough! The weight of that command was palpable, resonating with the power to alter the course of events. It was a decree from one of the universe's most formidable beings, a command that froze time across the entire central domain. The rushing apocalyptic explosion, the falling buildings, and even Eris were left affixed on her chair while flipping a page of her divine book. The only things still moving were the void tentacle, the celestial black flames, the three rulers, and the collapsing divine protective barrier. In less than a nanosecond, the first ruler's hand moved with a swiftness that defied comprehension, a golden blade materializing from the ether and slicing through the void tentacle and the portal with unerring precision. The severed tentacle dissipated into the void from whence it came, its attempt to secure Asna thwarted by the ruler's decisive action. As the connection was severed, Asna's form began a slow, graceless descent back to the ground. Her vision, clouded and fading, caught a fleeting glimpse of Felix, standing on the other side of the collapsing portal, his expression one of shock and disbelief. "Felix, run!" In these final moments, as darkness encroached upon her senses and her consciousness slipped away, she fell motionlessly to the ground, a silent witness to the thwarting of her beloved desperate rescue attempt. The scene settled into a tense stillness, with Asna lying vulnerable and unconscious, her fate now squarely in the hands of those who hold dominion over this realm. As the first ruler gazed into Felix's eyes through the portal with an untold amount of discontentment, he merely said, "Amonare." The instant the word left his mouth, time returned to normal. The stillness that had gripped the surroundings shattered, allowing reality to surge forward at its customary pace. The supernovas and the two Unigens' spiritual explosion continued on their path of destruction, bringing absolute ruination to the wastelands of the Eternal Kingdom. Unfortunately, the new protective barrier held strong and defended the key territories of the kingdom, not letting a single particle go through it. But no one was focusing on this. Eris and the rest of the Unigens had their eyes affixed on the remnants of the destroyed portal and the motionless Asna. Did he just attempt to rescue Asna right in front of the three rulers' eyes? Aeolus remarked with his mouth slightly agape, feeling like he had just witnessed the dumbest and most brazen move in the history of the universe. The eternal black flames, kidnapping Zeus and Poseidon, and now this. Athena shook her head, everything to stretch the three rulers' focus thin and rescue Asna while they were distracted. It's a great effort, but, sigh. She wanted to continue but all she could do was let out a long exhale in disappointment. She knew that even if Felix brought the entire Eternal Kingdom to a halt and tripled his efforts, the three rulers would never allow him to rescue Asna from under their noses. It was an impossibility due to a simple reason. Desperation sure makes us do dumb things. Demeter said with a faint sneer, the three rulers can boost their powers to infinity through celestial energy. She didn't need to see what happened exactly to understand that the first ruler must have enhanced his reaction speed to another level, allowing him to make a swift counter-move even when his focus was 99% stretched thin. He should have listened to me. Eris smiled bitterly. Her reaction wasn't because of the failure of the rescue mission, it was about the destiny awaiting Felix after pushing his luck far more than he could handle. Will he survive? She murmured as her eyes were locked on the third ruler's empty chair. The third ruler was nowhere to be seen in the capital city and Eris knew about his exact location. Meanwhile, in the dream realm, where ethereal skies shimmered with colors that had no name, and the ground morphed from solid to mist, a sudden interloper stepped inside. The instant Felix's eyes landed on the intruder, his pupils shrunk while his guard was heightened to the limit, even the tenants felt chills course down their spine. T-A-T-A-R-U-L. Candace's finger kept shaking while pointing it at the intruder, feeling like her heart was about to burst from terror and intimidation. Her reaction was understandable as the blinding divine light that once shrouded the third ruler's figure began to dissipate as if melting away under the realm's unique laws. Here, in a place where divinities held no sway, his true form emerged, no longer hidden by the divine brilliance that marked his presence in other realms. Amun-Ra, the third ruler and the king of the gods, Lilith uttered his name with a cold gaze as unpleasant memories of her dealings with him flooded her mind. Amun-Ra stood tall, with an imposing presence that filled any space he occupied. His skin shimmered with a golden luminescence, reminiscent of a star's radiant glow, reflecting his aspect as Ra. This ethereal light seemed to pulse with the life-giving energy of a star, casting a warm, benevolent aura around him. Amun-Ra's eyes were like stripped twin white stars, piercing and wise, glowing with an inner fire that illuminated truths hidden in the shadows. They held the depths of the universe, mirroring the endless skies and the mysteries they contained. His attire was regal, woven from the very fabric of the cosmos. A cloak of midnight blue, embroidered with silver constellations, draped over his shoulders, representing the night sky that even the sun must traverse. Beneath this celestial mantle, he wore a robe of radiant gold that flowed like liquid light, signifying his dominion over the day. Upon his head sat a double crown, symbolizing his sovereignty over all realms both visible and hidden. The crown merged the iconic elements of Ra and Amun, featuring a solar disk encircled by a cobra, representing Ra, and two tall plumes, signifying Amun, all set upon a band of cosmic darkness dotted with stars. In his hands, Amun-Ra held the Ankh and the Was scepter, ancient symbols of life and power, and his two heavenly weapons. The Ankh glowed with a soft, life-affirming light, while the rod was crafted from a material that seemed to absorb and refract the light of the universe itself. His entire presence screamed of an untouchable entity who should be hidden from the eyes of mortals as none of them could handle his grandiose godly figure. "Child, is this what you want?" Amun-Ra expressed with an emotionless tone, but the tint of anger could not be hidden from his eyes. Even the most oblivious person could immediately sense that the third ruler was furious, and his arrival was not for pleasantries. OF***CK. As Felix gazed at the third ruler, his heart sank, a cold dread washing over him. For a moment, time seemed to slow, the air thickened with tension and the weight of impending doom. Felix's instincts screamed at him, a primal warning that the end was near, a confrontation he might not survive. His hands clenched, his breath hitched, and in the depth of his soul, he prepared for a battle he knew could very well be his last. 1697 The Last Dance. V. Fear now grips you. Amun-Ra stated, devoid of emotion. You were granted ample opportunities to re-evaluate your confrontational stance. Fear, at this juncture, serves you no purpose. Upon hearing this, Felix was forced to take a step back reflexively as his mind was working on overdrive to seek out the best path for survival. He didn't even consider for a second that he had a chance at beating the third ruler. He wasn't that delusional. With or without divinities at their disposal, the three rulers were on a different plane in terms of strength compared to the rest. When Amonare noticed that Felix was getting antsy, he uttered with a monotonous tone, "You don't have to worry, my child. Your ability to devour and ascend with Unigen's cores is too vital for us. You will serve as a perfect divine soldier to get rid of those needless parasites. I would rather have you commit suicide than get caught by him." Lilith uttered with a serious tone, "They are more than able to turn you into a loyal puppet with a bit of heavy investment." Lilith understood that the three rulers wouldn't mind losing a great percentage of celestial energy if they managed to enslave Felix. After all, he had just slayed and absorbed 2 Unigen's cores. When he ascended with them, they would be considered dead for real and their territories would be passed to other Unigens. If Felix took care of the rest in the same manner, the Eternal Kingdom would be under the 3 rulers and the 3 upper celestial Unigens forever. The 3 rulers hoped for Felix to handle this on his own, but he soon made them regret this decision after he switched his target to them. Now, they would do the right thing and put him under their leash once and for all. "When we are done with you, your collection of cores will be of great assistance in our second attempt at breaking the universe's heart." With the calm and deliberate grace that only a deity of his standing could embody, Amonare lifted his scepter a few inches above the ground. The scepter, an embodiment of his dominion over creation and the unyielding force of his will, hovered momentarily in the air as if the very cosmos paused in anticipation. "For that, this realm has to disappear first." Then, with a motion that was both elegant and filled with purpose, Amonare tapped the scepter against the ground. The impact was gentle, almost tender, yet it carried the weight of eons, the authority of a god who had shaped worlds and commanded the forces of life and death. Instantly, the dream realm responded. Ruhuyumbal. A realm known for its stability, where the fabric of reality bent according to the whims of its inhabitants, now trembled as if caught in the grip of an unseen tempest. The ground shuddered, sending ripples across the landscape that grew into violent quakes, unsettling the very foundation of this place beyond places. The air vibrated with the force of the impact, carrying the tremors to every corner of the realm. Even the sky, a vast canvas that stretched into infinity, adorned with the dreams and nightmares of countless beings, began to show signs of strain. Cracks appeared, spider webbing across its expanse, a visual testament to the god's immense power. These were not mere physical fissures but ruptures in the very essence of the dream realm, threatening to unravel the fabric that held this place together. SHT, SHT, SH*T. Felix felt like his heart was assaulted directly after realizing that the dream realm wouldn't be able to resist too many of those tender love taps. If the dream realm was ever to get destroyed, he understood that his life would be done for. To be this close to a ruler with his ability to tap into his celestial energy freely was a death sentence. "I need a cover to escape." Just as he was about to switch his focus to his clones and bring them here to assist him, he felt his soul getting sliced apart with a blade. Chills coursed down his spine after realizing that his 3 duplicates in outer space had been slain. When memories of what happened to them registered in his mind, he felt like he was watching the wrath of a god for the first time in his life. His reaction was understandable as the 3 gigantic clones, each one a towering presence that dwarfed even the grandest celestial bodies, had their heads severed from their torsos simultaneously by a sudden flash of light. Not many managed to see the whole thing, but those who did were left with narrowed pupils and a fearful tingle in their hearts. A single divine blade finished them off. "The 3 rulers have gotten serious at last," Aeolus commentated with a deep solemn look. He saw that with a single, fluid motion that spanned the distance between thought and action, the second ruler swung a massive golden blade from one end of the realm to the other. The edge moved with a speed and precision that defied comprehension, tracing a straight line through the void. In an instant, the heads of the 3 duplicates were cleaved from their bodies before they could even blink. The blade's passage was so swift, so clean, that for a fleeting moment, time itself seemed to freeze, holding the heads aloft in a silent tableau of divine judgment executed with unerring accuracy. Then, as if existence rushed to catch up, the heads began their slow, silent drift away from the bodies, leaving a trail of cosmic energy in their wake. After she was done, the second ruler returned to her seat and extended her hand to help out the first ruler in dealing with the dying explosion. Back to the dream realm, Felix could be seen replaying the same scenes in his mind, having no clue where the blade came from, and if he had a chance to evade it in different circumstances. The answer came back as a big fat no. I would be dead if I was there. A sweat drop manifested on his forehead, a bodily reaction he had almost forgotten about after his second ascension. If he had any delusions before, that blade sliced them apart with the heads of his clones. Use your exit strategy. Leave this place now. Thor and the rest of the tenants recognized that Felix could be said to have placed himself in the worst possible situation. When they were perfecting the plan, they predicted that there was a chance of a ruler making a move personally against Felix during his rescue mission. This was pinpointed as the worst possible scenario since it made his escape possibilities extremely slim compared to dealing with Uranus, Eris, or another Unigen. Still, Felix took his chance and committed to the plan. Now, he was about to pay the price for his daring risks. I won't fall in your hands even if true death is the only path forward. Territorial pressure. With a fierce shout, Felix unleashed the full might of the Dream Realm's territorial pressure, and directed this colossal force towards Amonare, hoping to buy himself just a moment's respite, a sliver of time in which to enact his escape. Rumble. As the realm itself seemed to buckle under the strain of trying to force a god, Felix executed his next move with impeccable timing. He teleported swiftly, almost imperceptible flicker in the fabric of the dream realm, reappearing leagues away from his divine adversary. There, with the urgency of being chased by fate itself, he voiced a wish in the depths of his being. Connect me to the void realm this instant. Whoosh! A portal tore through the very essence of the dream realm, a swirling vortex of void energy that guaranteed sanctuary. This void portal was leading to the actual void realm mirroring the universe. It was possible only because the dream realm existed as a separate entity from the eternal kingdom, which offered a loophole, a crack in the cosmic order through which Felix aimed to slip through. Without hesitation, Felix flew toward the portal, not caring about what happened to his dream world in his absence. Alas! How could it be so simple? 1698 The Last Dance. 6. Chaos Element, Spatial Hijack. With an expressionless gaze, Amonare tapped his scepter on the ground once and the void portal was instantly transformed into a circular wooden door. Due to his momentum, Felix was unable to stop or switch his paths, forcing him to go through the wooden portal. As Felix emerged from the other side of the wooden portal, he found himself directly behind Amonare. *T. The ruler, embodying the omniscience of a deity, did not need to look back to sense Felix's presence. With a movement that melded grace and terrifying power, Amonare swung his scepter backward, its tip finding its mark in Felix's stomach. Boom! Kuug! The impact was immediate and devastating. Felix coughed out a torrent of blood, his eyes bulging in shock and pain as if the very fabric of the universe had coalesced into that single, unforgiving strike. In the next moment, Felix's body was catapulted into the air, a ragdoll caught in the tempest of divine retribution. Rumble. The shockwave from the scepter's impact didn't stop with Felix, it rippled outwards, inflicting further ruin upon the dream realm. The ground trembled, and the sky, already marred with cracks, seemed to splinter further as if the realm itself cried out in agony. This was not merely a physical assault, it was a clear demonstration of the gap between their powers, a chasm so vast that not even Felix's cunning and resourcefulness could bridge it. Before the tenants could even recover from their shock, Amonare, with the casual ease of a deity playing a cosmic game, commenced a relentless assault on Felix. He conjured wooden portals with a flick of his wrist, a network of spatial gateways that ensnared Felix in an inescapable loop. Like a marionette yanked by invisible strings, Felix found himself hurtling through these portals, each emergence punctuated by a devastating hit from Amonare's scepter. Bam! 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 The impacts were brutal, each one landing with the force of a supernova condensed into a singular point. With every hit, Felix's bones shattered, a symphony of destruction played on the canvas of his body, with each note echoing a power of 150 million BF minimum. This spatial ping-pong, with Felix's battered form as the ball, was a grim display of Amonare's control over the elements and force. Dear Lord, he is treating him akin to a ragdoll. Lord Loki sucked a cold breath at the sight. How can one battle back? Ramongandr tightened his fists in dread and anger. Monsters, those three are actual monsters. None of them was able to see the actual one-sided beatdown as Amonare's movements were occurring in less than nanoseconds. However, they were able to spot glimpses of Felix's bloody silhouette flickering from here and there. Meanwhile, the victim in this slaughter was left completely disoriented as each strike shook his being to the core. He had fought for his entire life and he would not hesitate to rank those strikes as the most fearsome and painful he had ever gone through. Whoosh! Bam! Whoosh! Bam! Each portal opened a new chapter of agony for Felix, a relentless cycle that saw him flung about with no respite. If we didn't need you alive, a mere hit would have been enough to shatter your proud body into fragments, Amonare uttered coldly as he delivered one last strike, smashing him into the ground beneath his feet. Cough, cough. As he was lying on a deep cracked crater akin to a beat-down starfish, Felix kept coughing out life like he had an infinite reservoir. While Amonare was gazing down at Felix emotionlessly, the other two rulers shared their senses and were able to watch the whole one-sided beatdown. Get rid of the dream realm now and use the Ankh to seal his powers. The first ruler uttered calmly, don't mistakenly kill him. I know what I am doing. Amonare replied coldly. With a gesture of supreme authority, he pointed his scepter skyward, summoning the very essence of the cosmos into its form. The scepter pulsed with overwhelming power, a brilliant white light emanating from its tip, heralding the unleashing of a beam composed of the universe's elemental forces. The moment the scepter's tip directed its focus towards the heavens of the dream realm, a potent, white elemental beam burst forth, a dazzling manifestation of the combined elements that constitute the universe. This beam, pure and all-encompassing, struck the sky of the dream realm with the precision of a cosmic lance, its impact resonating through the fabric of this ephemeral world. Shatter! Instantly, the dream realm's sky, already marred by the tumult of their battle, reacted violently to the beam's touch. Cracks, previously mere hairlines in the realm's structure, widened and multiplied with alarming rapidity, a spider web of destruction spreading across the once unmarred expanse. Each fissure released a cascade of ethereal light, the realm's essence bleeding out into the void. Meanwhile, lying on his back, Felix gazed up at the shattering sky with a hazy, barely conscious stare, his body a broken vessel from which life seemed to ebb away with the pooling life around him. His soul barrier reflected the condition of the sky above as both of them were filled with dangerous fissures. Felix was not acting in the slightest as the beatdown he received might have seemed simple, but it was nothing of such. The same experience that Zeus and Poseidon went through against him was now happening to him. A situation where absolute unbridgeable strength was able to obliterate all thoughts, plans, and actions. The worst part? He knew that Amonare could have gone even harder than this and killed his ass in the first second, which meant his strength was at least double the Unigen's peak. I never imagined it would come to this, Felix thought, a wry smile touching his lips despite the agony. To think that a mere mortal could stand against the titans of the cosmos. Was it ambition, folly, or destiny that led me here? The pain was a constant reminder of his previous mortality, yet it also served as a testament to how far he had come. From a world bound by limitations to challenging the very beings who dictated the laws of the universe. Each decision, each step taken on this journey was fueled by a desire not just for power, but for a purpose beyond the confines of his origin. Now, here I am, he mused, his mind wandering through the labyrinth of choices that brought him to this confrontation with Amonare. A crossroads not of paths, but of fates. My next decision, will it be my end or a new beginning? The realization that he stood on the brink of life or death was not met with fear but with profound clarity. This may be the end of my road, or perhaps, just another turn. Whatever comes next, I face it as I have always done, head on, with the courage of my convictions and the strength of my resolve. As the last remnants of his strength began to wane, Felix closed his eyes, not in surrender, but in acceptance of whatever fate had in store. Let the cosmos decide. He whispered to the universe one last time before snapping his gaze open. Dream realm, I invoke the godhood ritual. 1699 The Last Dance. 7. Meanwhile, Uranus materialized in the vast expanse of outer space, coalescing from dark, nearly invisible particles into a formidable presence. His senses, finely attuned to the cosmic ballet, picked up distant, faint shockwaves, unmistakable signatures of destruction. With a deep, intrinsic understanding, he acknowledged these forces at play. It must be the third ruler unleashing havoc upon the dream realm. A cold, determined expression etched itself upon his face as he set off towards the source of the turmoil, his movements swift and decisive. I hope he leaves something for me. Even though Uranus knew that Felix's fate was sealed the instant one of the three rulers made their move personally, he still wanted to give him a piece of his mind after all the mess he put the kingdom through. After disappearing into the cold empty void, two pitch-black eyes suddenly appeared from the nothingness behind him, their gaze piercing through the fabric of space itself before vanishing as quickly as they had appeared. Space soon returned to its peaceful state, unlike the chaos arising in the dream realm. Dream realm, I invoke the godhood ritual. With each word spoken, the realm's very fabric began to dissolve, dreams of countless beings converging toward Felix in a maelstrom of ethereal energy. In the void realm, the citizens were gripped by an unseen torment, their faces twisted in agony. This collective suffering stemmed from an inexplicable source, yet its effects were palpable across the realm. Each individual, regardless of their strength or stature, found themselves caught in a maelstrom of pain, a byproduct of the ritual unfolding far beyond their reach or comprehension. Simultaneously, the dreamers underwent a startling transformation. Once vast and vibrant, these beings began to shrink, their sizes diminishing rapidly. This contraction was not a natural phenomenon but a consequence of their dreams being siphoned away. The dreams, a vital aspect of their existence, were being harvested to fuel a godhood ritual, leaving the dreamers lessened, a mere shadow of their former selves. This scene of sacrifice and loss underscored the profound and far-reaching impact of the ritual and why Felix didn't consider going for it until his back was against the wall. He comprehended that the ritual would be hard and painful for his citizens, but he didn't hesitate to invoke it as his life and death were connected to theirs. If he died, they would follow him next. Whoosh! Whoosh! Their collective hopes, fears, and fantasies swirled around him, a torrent of power that sought to reshape reality itself. Felix's body, battered and bruised from the ordeal with Amonare, began to mend under the overwhelming force of the ritual. Wounds sealed, blood receded, and his form elevated to an apex condition, untouched by mortal frailty. His crimson hair, a mark of his trials and tribulations, cascaded down his back, growing in length and radiance until it shimmered with an inner light, each strand a testament to his indomitable spirit. From his gaze, twin beams of piercing light erupted, illuminating the dark sky left by the dream realm's dissolution. Roar! 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 At his command, the seven Hydra tails emerged not as separate entities but as a singular, majestic armor. Scales, vibrant and colorful, each embedded with a dragonic eye, wrapped around Felix's form. This living armor provided him not just with unparalleled protection but with a sensory network that extended beyond the physical, granting him the awareness that bordered on omniscience within his domain. As the ritual reached its zenith, the dream realm itself seemed to acknowledge Felix's transcendence. The remnants of the realm, now a canvas for his will, responded to his slightest desire, breathing with him, living with him, and dying with him. Thud! Felix rose to his feet, his hand firmly planted on his knee as he lowered his head, undaunted by Amonare's unimpressed expression. The godhood ritual, one of Lilith's most profound and forbidden techniques. Amonare remarked calmly, "Boy, do you understand the consequences of your actions? When enslavement is the only option I have left, it doesn't sound so bad to risk my life for one last try at beating you senseless," Felix replied with a cold sinister look as he slowly lifted his head to match Amonare's gaze. "How delusio!" Before Amonare could finish his sentence, Felix launched a swift punch toward Amonare's face, a blow so powerful that it threatened to unravel the fabric of reality itself. However, Amonare, with his divine reflexes, caught Felix's fist effortlessly in his palm. Boom! The force of the impact didn't harm him, but the space behind him was obliterated, leaving a void where existence itself seemed to have been erased. "If that's all you have," Amonare remarked, his voice echoing with disdain, unfazed by the attempt on his divine visage. "I am just starting." Refusing to be belittled, Felix opened his clenched fist, unleashing a concentrated beam of void energy straight at Amonare's face. "Remove immunites." In the same breath, he revoked the immunity to elemental forces from all beings within his realm, including himself, making them vulnerable to the raw essence of their powers. The beam struck true, causing Amonare to flinch slightly, a sensation of discomfort marking his divine features for the first time. The touch of pain, however fleeting, did not sit well with the deity. With a slight grimace marring his otherwise perfect features, Amon's skin showed signs of disintegration where the void beam had made contact, a testament to the potency of Felix's attack. "It seems like you won't go down without a fight. Fine, I will entertain you." In retaliation, Amonare, now slightly angered by the affront, lowered his scepter with a swift motion and struck Felix with it, sending him flying across the dream realm with such force that the very air trembled in his wake. As Felix was propelled away by Amonare's divine strike, his armor, shimmering with the essence of the 7 Hydra tails, miraculously began to mend itself. Roar! Roar! In a breathtaking spectacle of resilience, 2 dragonic maws emerged from the chest of his armor, their emergence accompanied by deep, resounding roars that seemed to vibrate through the very core of the dream realm. These maws unleashed 2 streams of energy, one of concentrated plasma and the other of void, which intertwined in a deadly dance to form a deep purple beam of unprecedented power. Amonare, witnessing this new threat, aimed his scepter at the incoming beam, intending to counter it with a blast of his own combined elemental forces. Cancel elemental energies. But Felix, in a strategic maneuver, nullified all elemental energies within his realm besides the ones in his command, rendering the scepter impotent. The scepter, now unable to summon its usual divine barrage, released nothing but the faintest wisp of energy, a stark contrast to its wielder's expectations. With a sigh of irritation, Amonare executed a swift sidestep, narrowly avoiding the beam without much trouble. Even when this was the first time Felix had made the third ruler dodge his attack, he didn't spend a single nanosecond feeling good about himself. Bend. With Felix's newfound godhood granting him dominion over reality itself, he seized a moment of audacity to control the physics of his own realm. With a mere thought, he bent the trajectory of the concentrated beam, a feat deemed impossible beyond the borders of this realm. The beam, infused with plasma and void energies, twisted and snapped back like a rubber band, aiming directly at Amonare. The deity, with a grace that belied his immense power, evaded the redirected assault, his hands clasped casually behind his back, an image of unperturbed calm in the face of chaos. Amonare's evasion, however, was but the prelude to Felix's masterstroke. Infinity Mirror. Tapping into the depths of his symbolic techniques, Felix invoked a potent ability that mirrored and multiplied the active capabilities within his vicinity. From the hundreds of black sigils that appeared in the air, a barrage of beams, identical to the original in form and fury, rained down upon Amonare. Whoosh! 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 This onslaught forced the deity into continuous motion, a dance of divine agility as he navigated the relentless tide of attacks. Each beam sought Amonare with unyielding persistence, turning the dream realm into a battlefield of light and shadows. For the first time, Amonare found himself on the defensive side of the battle. Yet, Felix still did not stop his onslaught as he charged personally into the fray with Hephaestus's divine hammer in both hands. It's not enough, he can still get to me if I decide to escape through a void portal. While Felix seemed like he was on the winning side, he comprehended that Amonare was simply waiting for the godhood transformation to end before making his move in peace. That's because the godhood ritual was fueled by the dreams of the residents, and the moment their minds would crack, and there would be no more dreams to harvest, the dream realm would self-explode automatically. This would cause Felix to receive a potent backlash since the dream realm was connected to his soul and its explosion was the same as a direct strike on it. The moment that happened, he would be left in the open of the eternal kingdom to fend for himself against the third ruler. This time he would have his divinities, connection to celestial energy, and elemental control. In other words, Felix would be done for and no one would be able to save him. Thus, he had to create the greatest chance to escape, a chance that not even Amonare would be able to predict or stop. 1700 The Last Dance. 8. Aig. Felix, now imbued with the might of a god, launched himself at Amonare, his hammer swinging with deadly intent. Each strike intended not just to hit, but to obliterate, fueled by a desperation and fury unseen before. Boredom. Boredom. Boom. Amonare countered the attacks with his scepter held in one hand, not feeling an ounce of threat even when Felix could be said to be in his ultimate form. He had used all enhancing symbolic techniques and even popped off the godhood ritual. He couldn't get any stronger than this unless he pushed past his universal limitation. Is this the extent of your wrath, child? Amonare's voice was calm, almost disappointed, as he parried the hammer's descents, sending shockwaves rippling through the realm with each clash. The ground beneath them cracked, and the sky twisted, but Amonare remained untouchable, his movements fluid and precise. I will not be denied. Felix roared with bloodshot eyes, his attacks intensified, each blow stronger than the last, aiming to shatter the calm composure of the god before him. But Amonare danced around the fury, his scepter a blur of golden light, deflecting and redirecting with effortless grace. The beams, bending and twisting in pursuit, sought to ensnare Amonare, but he evaded them with a swan's elegance. You think to bind me with tricks? He taunted, moving through the beams as if partaking in a deadly dance. Your power is immense, child, but it lacks finesse. Felix, undeterred, summoned more beams, their numbers multiplying, a relentless assault of twisted energy. Then let's see how you dance under the weight of 1,000 strikes. He shouted, the beams converging from all directions until they turned into a singular roaring dragon heading toward Amonare with a wide-open maw. As the dragon opened its mouth, a sphere of conflicting energies grew larger and larger until it was launched with ferocious power. Foolish attempt. Unfazed, Amonare made a single swing with his scepter, and after a flash of light, both the ferocious sphere and the dragon were sliced in half. Split. Felix acted swiftly and without hesitation, breaking the dragon apart into 1,000 beams and sending them rushing towards Amonare. He kept searching for an opening to land a direct strike on his opponent while maintaining the same fervor. He had already crafted a plan that might get him out of this death sentence, but he had to land a strike first. Alas! Amonare's scepter whirled in his hand, each motion repelling the incoming attacks with great ease. 1,000 strikes, yet none can touch me. What does that tell you, child? His tone was almost instructive, a teacher chiding a wayward student. I am running out of time, I have to commit. I have to. Felix kept raining down on Amonare with a barrage of strikes, unbothered by his enemy's taunts. His mind was completely occupied with finding out the best way to create an opening and strike Amonare. He understood that if he wanted to escape, he had to do something outlandish that even a Monare wouldn't predict. Thus, with a strategy brewing within the depths of his cunning mind, he prepared his next move, a strike designed to catch even a god off guard. High above a Monare, Felix poised himself, his hammer raised menacingly. A Monare, ever vigilant, prepared to evade the impending strike with his customary grace. Fall. Just as Felix's hammer dropped with a force that threatened to shatter the very fabric of the dream realm, a Monare shifted his position with effortless ease, a mere blur to the mortal eye. However, as the hammer neared its impact on the ground, Felix's voice thundered through the realm, "Switch! Rumble!" In an instant, the laws of the realm obeyed Felix's command, the sky and ground swapping places in a disorienting flip that turned the dream realm upside down. This sudden inversion of reality caught a Monare by surprise, a rare moment of vulnerability in the face of Felix's ingenuity as his body was also turned upside down. The only difference was that Felix had anticipated this while he didn't. With the realm now upside down and Felix having free space to move his hammer, he swung the hammer with renewed vigor directly at a Monare's chest from an angle that wouldn't have been possible without turning the realm upside down. The move was so unexpected, so swift, that even a Monare, the embodiment of divine foresight, found himself unprepared for the sudden reversal of the battlefield. With no time to evade, a Monare brought his arms up in a cross to shield himself from the blow. Ruyumbal. Upon impact, instead of getting hurled into the distance as Felix and the tenants had anticipated, a Monare remained affixed in his position, resisting the powerful momentum like a wall against the shove of a mere mortal. "Give up, the gap between us is simply unbridgeable," a Monare remarked with a stone-cold face as he stood locked in this titanic struggle. Feeling the resistance, Felix's determination only hardened. He recognized the gap in their strengths, a gap that no amount of physical prowess could bridge. But Felix was not one to accept the limitations of the universe without challenge. With murderous bloodshot eyes, Felix called upon the laws of the greed sin, not as a plea to the dream realm, but to the very essence of his sin-driven power. Every gap can be crossed with sufficient resolve. Remove the universal limitation. Felix roared, his voice echoing through the realms, a testament to his refusal to be bound by the cosmic laws that governed all beings. As the words left his lips, a transformation began instantly. The universe responded to his call even when Felix didn't use anything for a sacrifice. Felix's body became the focal point of an unprecedented surge of power. His sin-symbolic techniques, the infernal pact of avarice and wrath, alongside the prideful aura of supremacy, activated with full intensity. These techniques, fueled by Felix's unyielding pride and seething anger, began to amplify his strength exponentially, untethered by the universal constraints that had previously held him back. 120 million BF, 140 million BF, 150 million BF. The air around Felix crackled with raw, unbridled energy as if the very essence of sin and greed coalesced to shatter the chains that bound his potential. His muscles bulged with newfound power, and his eyes blazed with a ferocious light, a herald of the unleashed fury about to be directed at the god before him. With this newfound strength, Felix pushed against a Monare with renewed vigor, uncaring that his body was teething on falling apart as such strength was way beyond what it could handle. The universe didn't put such limitations on Unigens for the fun of it. All beings in its territory had a finality point, and crossing it was the same as going against the universe's creation and balance. Unfortunately, a Monare was a grade higher than those creations. "Boy, you are starting to get on my nerves." A Monare's expression turned icy as he was compelled to escalate his strength to counter Felix's surging power. The once regal robe adorning his form was cast aside by the sheer force of their confrontation, revealing his chiseled physique that glowed with an inner light, more radiant than the sun itself. His skin, kissed by an eternal tan, stretched tight over muscles that seemed to be carved from the very essence of divinity, with veins that pulsed not with blood but with pure, dazzling light. As a Monare exerted himself beyond the limits, his muscular frame expanded, each fiber radiating with intensified luminescence, pushing him towards a staggering 200 million bf. Arg! Felix, driven by an unstoppable will and the power of his symbolic techniques, tried his best to match this godly display of might, their combined strength reaching a pinnacle that tore at the fabric of reality itself. Around their unmoving bodies, the realm trembled under the weight of their clash. Rumble, rumble! Space itself began to unravel, giving birth to anomalies that defied understanding. Swirls of black electricity crackled in the air, a manifestation of the chaos wrought by their power. The very laws of physics seemed to bend and warp, generating a spectacle of destruction and beauty as reality struggled to contain the magnitude of their battle. This was no longer a fight, it was an event that reshaped the very perception of power in the minds of anyone spectating this battle. What the hell am I watching? Fenrir, Thor, Hormungandr, Elder Kraken, Lady Sphinx, Lord Loki, Ancestral Dragon Ymir, Candace, and even Lord Shiva were left with widened eyes reflecting this epic confrontation of two beings beyond their understanding and reach. Yet, the only ones who were appreciating it fully were Lilith and Lord Hades, who was watching from his spirit realm through Felix's eyes. Whether he wins or loses, he will have a painful price to pay for this. Lord Hades murmured to himself, knowing that such a wish would have grave consequences.